It all starts with a gigantic tree that took root in this country. Its name was Yggdrasil, and it quickly grew and covered the entire world. Along with it appeared countless worlds that seemed to be game-based. One of them was called Labyrinth, and people knew it as the game of the gods. The problem is that not everyone could become one of those players. In what seems to be a mine under construction, people are finishing their shift. Among them is a guy in an orange jacket taking off his helmet when suddenly someone appears from behind and tells him he did a good job today and has some good stuff to trade and asks if he wants to buy them for very little. It was a data card, and he's sure it's one of the good ones. But in the middle of the old man's explanation, the boy simply runs away. The old man keeps thinking that that bastard thinks too highly of himself, but he's just like everyone else in that place. A useless piece of garbage abandoned by all, just like everyone there under the splendor of all the riches that Yggdrasil brought. Obviously, there are the broken and ruined, and in the midst of all that, there was a slot machine store. The protagonist grabs the door handle and can already hear people inside shouting or demanding their points back. He approaches one of the machines while everyone is yelling, wanting to gamble once more and saying that this time they'll change their life as he sits in the chair, welcomes him to the place where everything can change. The good old random box, legalized betting for those who want to chase fortune. And there goes the protagonist trying once again to change his life. The rare item available today was a permit to create an account for the protagonist. This could have been the only chance he would have in his life. On the screen, it asks if he wants to open 10 boxes, and he obviously clicks yes, saying he still has hope. The first box then drops from the heavens and he receives an incredible toothbrush of rank N, rank N. He had never seen such a low rank. At this point, we're about to reach. I don't even know the Greek alphabet, obviously. He just moves on to the next box, but from the pile of junk that piles up behind him, it's clear he's not having much luck. Another rank N, then comes a rank R, which is also junk. He's heard that things like S, R, and S, R exist, but he's been through this countless times and has never seen anything like it. Remembering his mother in the hospital, all he wanted was a chance. Back then, when something shone before his eyes, the machine sparkled like a galaxy. He wondered if that was an S, R, but from the light coming from the sky, it looked more like an S, R, which is a super special rare. Now that I think about it, he didn't even know what the acronym S, R really meant. The protagonist is completely shaking, telling himself that he never imagined this day would come. A miracle he could only dream of. Holding the card in his hand, says that not giving up until now was worth it. He could finally be part of Yggdrasil. This was a permission to create an account you could become part of the Labyrinth that was based on countless games, and of course, the only way to access them was by creating an avatar with an account. Although the avatars were virtual bodies that didn't exist in reality, you could bring items from the Labyrinth to the real world, and those items brought from there were worth a fortune and changed the way society functioned. Nowadays, the whole society revolves around Yggdrasil, and those who manage everything are the best players. Seems like the game changed, not a slap. In the face of all the moms who say that playing 10,000 hours of League of Legends is a waste of time, I have to be ready if Yggdrasil appears, who knows? The problem is that in this world only a few people receive the right to create an account. And now, running with a smile on his face, he finally became one of the lucky ones. He opens the door excitedly, saying, this is his chance to start everything over. But the moment his face comes out into the open, he gets hit with a blunt force right in the mouth. The next second, he's lying on the asphalt, slowly regaining consciousness, obviously not understanding what just happened. The boss then asks if this is the guy, and the tattooed one answers yes, the lucky one who actually, was unfortunate since they saw that he got it. The guy grabs the card and hands it to the boss, who, upon looking at it, says he never thought one of those cards existed, except in those extremely expensive auctions. The protagonist, however, holds on to the guy's pants and says he can't take it. He was the one who pulled it from the machine. But dude, we're in the favela. Right, where there's no money, there's no police. Did you like that heavy social critique? The boss simply orders to stomp on the kid. With that, our kid gets pancake flattened, but even while they're hitting him, he grabs the boss again and demands that he returns the account. The guy, however, grabs his head and asks if he's forgotten what it's like to live in this world as a Don. Nobody without a name. Anything good he takes from the store has to be paid for. After all, they run things around here. But not wanting to be unfair, he says he'll give the kid a gift. It's his turn, on the forehead saying they always make fair trades. With that, the protagonist receives 30,000 points in his system, enough for one last solo spin on the roulette. The guy tells him that with that, he took what the kid got in one spin and now the kid can do another. So they're even before our kid could even complain. Bam, face against the asphalt again. But the kid is stubborn and once again goes to grab the guy's pants. But man, he might be tough, but he's still human, right? He simply falls to the ground once and for all. With that, it starts to rain. And the guys say they're going to grab something good to eat while they leave our guy there, man, kissing the asphalt. One of the bald guys then tells the boss to take a look. The guy was actually getting up again. The guys can't understand how the hell that bastard still manages to stand. Then the system starts giving some alerts that his vital signs were dropping. He urgently needed to get to the nearest hospital as fast as possible. The boss starts wondering if maybe he was too lenient with the guy because it just doesn't make sense. And the protagonist once again starts heading back to the betting shop. Man, some don't believe it while others say that's the kind of dedication needed to get an SSR, but well, they're going to stick around and watch him, and if he gets something good again, they'll just make another trade, just the bald guy. However, asks what they're going to do if the guy dies in the shop, to which the boss replies that they'll just drag the body out and that's it. After all, he's a nobody, so no one will care. Meanwhile, the system keeps warning the protagonist that his vital signs are still dropping. The pain was starting to fade away as if he were about to lose consciousness. Breathing was hard. He couldn't even hear what the people around him were saying. Completely trembling, he walks through the crowd, heads towards one of the betting machines but falls to the ground, crawls, and gets back up. To try one last spin, he extends his finger to press the button, but the system warns that his vital signs had reached a critical state. At that moment, all he could think was that his life had really been a mess. It was then that in the middle of the place, everyone seemed to see the tree of Yggdrasil itself. The boss couldn't even say what exactly it was because of how much it shone. And suddenly, the protagonist's body started to look like it was being digitized. The system says that an emergency has been detected and that the condition was red. The only rescue method was a forced conversion into a character. And with that, the Yggdrasil system asks him to choose the character's name. Suddenly, the protagonist finds himself with the name Ryuki, being there somewhat confused, not understanding where he is or what's happening. A message then says that for leaking confidential guild information, he was expelled. He looks around saying he would never do something like that. But the verdict is given and all charges are accepted. With that, his rank is eliminated. The protagonist seemed to recognize that voice, and two strange entities welcome him to the life of a nobody. Our guy tries to defend himself, saying he did nothing, but a hooded figure approaches from the side saying that it's already too late. The protagonist seemed to recognize that voice, and two strange entities welcomed him to the life of a nobody. Our boy tries to defend himself, saying he didn't do anything, but a hooded figure approaches from the side, saying it's too late. It was time for 7000 EDC 7 to rise, and with that, he wakes up and sees himself in a strange digital world. That place really didn't feel like reality, and he didn't know if he was dead or if this was the afterlife when suddenly it appears. A strange object that looked like a kind of bracelet and tells him to select a name. Our boy asked what the hell. A floating vacuum cleaner was talking to him, but the little robot told him to show some respect. It was the system box known as Igon. Then it congratulated him for being the first person in existence to obtain an item of rank UR. The boy had no idea what the hell it was talking about as far as he knew. The SSR was the highest rank, and then it said it would explain that where he was now was right in the middle of the dividing line between reality and the virtual world, and the reason he needed a name now was to finalize the conversion and access the labyrinth, but our boy knew that for that he would need an avatar and a game account. However, the robot said that's just a human limitation. He, on the other hand, didn't need any of that. Besides that, due to the critical state he was in, it initiated a forced conversion, connecting his body to Yggdrasil. Without further delay, he had to go and choose the character's name to be able to start. Our protagonist still hadn't understood anything. He didn't know if this was a dream or reality, but there was a possibility that this was the opportunity he had been needing, and with that, he chose the name Ryuki. The setup was complete, and he began to be transferred to the Labyrinth game. The moment he opened his eyes, he found himself in a world called Phantom. He stood still for a few moments without saying anything, feeling the wind hit his hair and his feet firmly on the ground. This was completely different from any simulation he had experienced, apparently. This was the labyrinth he had always wanted to enter, but in the midst of all that excitement, some skeletons appeared beside him. The first one tried to attack, and he managed to dodge it by taking a small step back. Then he started running, wondering why there were so many creatures. If theoretically he should be in the tutorial, at least they were just level 1 skeletons. that were weak to physical attacks. Ryuki began to shout to open the status window, but Aigon simply replied for him to stop asking for silly things. Our boy then wanted to know where the gear was normally. When you start a game, you receive something, but the robot explained that since he obtained an item of rank UR, he didn't need to follow any of the Labyrinth rules. Furthermore, he wouldn't benefit from any stats level or any kind of advantage granted by the Labyrinth or the world called Phantom. As long as he had Aigon by his side, all he needed to do was try his luck in a random box. At least he had the beginner bonus after logging in for 7 consecutive days. He would receive a ticket that guaranteed an SR item. Since it was his first time, he received 100 tickets from Aigon plus 5 additional tickets for entering the world, called Phantom Ryuki. He celebrates that at least he got a bunch of tickets and says he wants to start opening them right away. The boy is brave. He opens the first object, picks it up, and shouts at the skeletons, saying that it will be easy now. But the used bathroom mop he received didn't last long. He runs back cursing at Aigon and asking where his luck is, then throws a wig at the skeleton, which was the second object he got. He's running around leaving a bunch of stuff on the ground, when suddenly the robot tells him to be careful, but it's already too late. He falls flat on his face like an idiot. The little robot with the wig comes swinging a sword, then finally one of the boxes next to him shines. He manages to block the attack, because he got a short sword from that box, right? Clearly, it was quite, but better than nothing. He celebrates the decent weapon and charges forward, saying it's just a level 1 skeleton. There's no way he can lose, but I think our gamer here isn't much of a gamer because he tried to hit the skeleton on the head with the sword. Obviously, the result was that he got stabbed in the shoulder, and the sword did absolutely nothing. Ryuki, however, is confused as to why he got stabbed in the shoulder instead of just losing HP, and Gon explains once again that the rules for them are completely different. So HP doesn't exist. He is risking his real life watching the skeleton approach. Ryuki wonders if he got into this mess just to die in such a meaningless way. Then he leaps forward to block the attack as 2 boxes fall from the sky. As soon as they hit the ground, he manages to deflect the skeleton's strike, lunges, and sends it flying. He's confused for a second, feeling like he used a skill and his body moved on its own. Then he sees that from the boxes he got 2 rank S skills, one for defense and one for sword mastery, and Aigon says he's the only one not limited by the world of Yggdrasil. If an object or skill appears in the box, it transfers to him immediately. Another skeleton comes to attack from the side, but the rank SR block activates, and he manages to deflect the attack. With that, the creature becomes half paralyzed. He delivers a clean slash to it. Man, who was the one who said you couldn't cut skeletons with a sword? Hey, who was the idiot who said that 3 minutes ago? That was obviously thanks to the rank SR sword mastery skill. Ryuki now understood that those skills shouldn't even exist in the world of Phantom, since Yggdrasil has a ton of different places, but with that talent, he was ignoring the laws and restrictions. And he says he always knew the boy was lucky. It's no surprise he pulled a rank UR object when Ryuki looked back and saw his first SSR box. He immediately smiled and went to grab the box, saying something wasn't right here, but that a miracle was happening in his life. 3 skeletons come to attack him, but with the box in hand, he turns around and cuts them all down at once. Warning, if they're going to give her so much luck, she's going to squeeze it to the max. The world she's in is called Phantom, a game considered a masterpiece made by the Labyrinth company. Besides all the games in the maze, it's the most popular and the one everyone goes through. Ryuki was there farming skeletons non-stop. Finally, he was one of the lucky ones who also took part in this. The guy was stacking skeletons, but the experience he gained immediately turned into points to get more boxes. Things worked completely different for him, and he didn't even have a level besides from the calculations he made. He would have to kill 15 skeletons just to try his luck. Once now, it was time to see what to do with that item. SR that he obtained for him was something absurd. It didn't make sense for it to exist, but Aigon says that if it's in front of him, then it exists. Not for nothing, it's SSR man, things like that are always good, but our boy keeps it saying that for now he'll keep it sealed. That's because it's going to be perfect to face that person, or better said his whole guild. For now he's going to hide that power. For the perfect moment, the abilities required, roulette points to level up. At least for him, things were pretty simple. All he needed was for the game to keep sending monsters, and he'd keep killing them. He liked when all he had to do was keep farming sometime later. An explosion occurs in the forest, and another skeleton falls to the ground, leaving a crystal in front of him. It was already his 3rd day in the game, and obviously he had been doing all the daily missions and farming all day. He finally managed to gather 1,500 points, enough to make 10 rolls. Man, I think that's better than... Genshin Impact, right farm for 3 days and get 10 rolls. Not bad at all, and Gon is there celebrating, saying he's excited to see what the guy is going to get this time. But Ryuki spends 1,400 points to level up both skills. The robot goes crazy, saying this bastard should try his luck. It's way more fun. Our boy wants to know the odds. And the system explains 70% chance for rank, N 27% for R, 2.7% for SR, and 0.3% for SSR. Then wants to know why his inventory is full of junk. The robot tells him to stop complaining. He had already pulled several good skills, but Ryuki replies that he's only going to open boxes with the rewards from daily missions. The rest of the points he gets he'll use to upgrade things the robot says he understands, but then asks, "So how long do you plan to stay here in the tutorial forest?" But our protagonist is cautious. Man needs weapons, and to level up his skills only then will he leave that place. He's someone who knows this world better than anyone, and needs to make the most of his knowledge from the past. The starting forest was no exception, and he would make sure to take full advantage of it. That's because it's a place you can't return to once you leave. So before risking it in the world, I needed to squeeze every bit out of it. So he tells Igon he needs to practice a lot to understand the limits of the system and what he can really do even without any stats. Apparently, 7 days have passed. And of course, leveling up was becoming slower and slower. At least both SR ranked skills were already at level 3. Unfortunately, there was no option to level them up further, showing that this is the limit of the tutorial. But then Igon gives him a pat on the face, saying it's time to claim the reward for logging in for 7 days, even though it was a guaranteed SR. There was still a chance it could be a useless SR, but hey, it's all or nothing, and he orders the box to open. The golden package drops to the ground, shines, and then looks confused, asking if something like this can really exist in this world. He received an SR-ranked sword, but at the same time, it's a sword that also has a built-in revolver, so it's efficient. But he knows that considering the history of the Phantom world, weapons like that shouldn't exist, which means if someone sees something like this, the world is going to go crazy. He tests it, with a light cut on a tree that immediately slices through like butter. Even considering he has sword mastery, the power of that thing was extraordinary. Then he remembers that upon entering the game, he was basically dying in real life and wonders what would happen if he dies here. Igon explains that if he dies, he'll receive a backup and be resurrected, but he wouldn't want to go through that since reconstructing the body would hurt like hell. Ryuki, however, responds that he doesn't care about the pain and tells him to go ahead and use the tickets. He needed to increase his combat power even if just a little. Sometime later, he's already re-equipped with an ranked set, but, well, at least it's better than nothing. Then he tells Igon to get ready and start recording everything from this second onward. Not a single moment of his play must be missed. The robot asks what he should name the file, and he says to call it the disc that backtracked but escaped the abyss. The robot says that's fine, but wants to know why he suddenly wants to record something like this. Our guy explains that most of the games from the company were rushed in development, and even this one, which was one of the better made ones, wasn't that different. It still has some bugs. Like right in front of him is this night boss that was supposed to appear much later in the game. The system announces that this is the Black Knight of Chaos, a creature blessed by the god of darkness. With that, a sudden mission appears to eliminate it. He would receive 10 tickets and 1 guaranteed SR for someone who was already planning to kill the creature. Getting an extra bonus was perfect. The boss raises his sword and tells the kid to show his worth. With a powerful sword and a level 3 parry skill, Ryuki manages to deflect the monster's attack backward. Just as he expected, since he has no levels, he's limited to what his skills can do. With that, he tells the knight to get ready and throws a solid punch to the chest, but the hit seems to do nothing. Igon congratulates him for his bravery and says it looks like his attacks are working, obviously confusing Ryuki. Ryuki is especially confused because he caused no damage. It's then that Igon tells him to remember he's in a more realistic world. Then the protagonist understands. He was fighting like a character trying to lower HP by hitting the armor, but he was no longer bound by the rules, and in this case, he needed to fight more realistically. With that, he charges at the boss looking for a real weak point. The knight tries to block his strike, but Ryuki manages to defend himself with the sword and gets closer, plunging the sword deep into the armor and firing. Right in the middle of the arm, the stump falls to the ground, and the knight lets out a groan of agony. Ryuki finally starts to understand what Igon always says about not having HP, but at the same time being able to break the game's rules. He didn't have to worry about the creature's life. What mattered was to fight realistically. Amid all that confusion in his head, out of nowhere, the monster hits him straight in the shoulder. The problem is that Ryuki knows the Black Knight shouldn't have any ranged attack patterns. Then he sees that the strange energy that hit him also came from the Knight's arm, and the Knight says that whoever threatens, the Lord deserves to experience the abyss. Ryuki manages to dodge, but starts to think that maybe he underestimated this creature. Perhaps the boss that appears at the end of the game is different from this one in the tutorial. After all, when you die in the starting village, you're sent to the first area, which means no one has fought this guy. Twice he's in the middle of defending against a bunch of attacks, but of course, several are hitting him too. One lands a direct hit to the stomach. The scene then cuts to our guy slamming his hand on a table, saying he doesn't understand the strategy. He failed again and has no idea what the problem was. Back in those days, he belonged to the Lincia Guild and was an analyst, the guy who receives the data, but he says the area where he was trying to formulate the strategy had already been conquered by Linfell. Ryuki insists, saying this time it's much more efficient. Besides, they would be a bit ahead of the other guilds. But the guy simply throws the papers and says he's not even a player or someone with an incredible rank, so why is he trying to make decisions for the Lincia Guild? In this place, they don't do replays. That was the decision made by the best. Linfell, then why was he questioning her? Ryuki is back in the room, banging the table again, saying those idiots are still at it with that nonsense about no repeats, just so Linfell can keep the ranks. But unfortunately, he had to calm down and focus on the costs of his mother's surgery. That was much more important. Suddenly, someone calls Ryuki's name, and he jumps. The person apologizes, saying they thought he might want some coffee. It's another researcher named Cynthia, who says that apparently the guides she was working on were rejected again. He looks exhausted, and she approaches, asking if he wants a bit of help. Not the kind of help we expect him to want, but he says he needs help with some classified info to finish the guide. She says that's fine and smiles, saying that if he wants her help, she'll give it her all. Sometime later, Ryuki is back at the hospital, telling his mother not to worry. He already scheduled the surgery. She asks about the costs, but he says everything is fine. The guild finally approved it. His mother gets happy and hugs him, saying she's proud of how hard he works. He replies that everything is going to be all right and that hard work is really bringing him luck. But in the next scene, he's being kicked out of the Lincia Guild for leaking secrets. He tries to say something, but the guy just tells him not to even defend himself. They already have enough evidence, even though he had been discreet. They already had information from Linfell and Cynthia. Oh, that bastard. Look, even in Linfell's arms, that damned woman. Man, he tricked me with that smile. Now I want him to pull out an SSR gun and shoot that bitch right in the head. And that damn Linfell is still there, saying it must be the idiot Ryuki, the one who keeps sending those ridiculous guides. Seeing the guy with that stupid face really fired him up. Then he turns to Cynthia and says he went through a lot having to be near that piece of trash, but today they would go out to celebrate. With that, he leaves, saying that Ryuki should know where he comes from. It makes no sense to be an analyst if you can't even analyze properly, much less try to make a guide for others to surpass you. The truth is, he doesn't know where he belongs. Then he walks out the door, saying it's a shame, but the insignificant life he had has come to an end. At that moment, our boy lost the little dignity he still had in that city and fell to unknown rank. Man, at that point, all the money, status, honor, and family he had were taken from him. He even lost his name. That's capitalism at its finest, bro. You lose the money, and you don't even have your name left. But now Ryuki is back in the dungeon, resisting the attack of the Black Knight, who is impressed that he's still standing after taking a hit like that. Our boy keeps resisting, and then the monster raises his sword, saying that in the end, there's no way he's getting out of this. The attack comes with full force towards Ryuki, who wonders if this time it will really be the end again. How different this opportunity would be from his past life. Thinking of his mother and Cynthia, he vows to make her pay for everything. Then he diverts the attack to the knight's stomach, draws his own sword, and leaps forward, grabbing the knight's head. He drives the sword into the helmet and remembers those two pieces of trash. The knight falls to the ground and vows not to forgive either of them. With that, the creature explodes. For killing a Black Knight at a low level, he receives 15,000 experience points. Additionally, the emergency mission grants him 10 tickets and a guaranteed S-rank ticket as he disintegrates. The knight tells him to overcome forgetfulness and move on. Ryuki simply responds that there's no need to say it, he's going to keep advancing. He recorded everything, and now a blonde guy is watching, wanting to know when the video was uploaded. The other person replies it was just a few hours ago, and asks if he wants them to contact him. But the guy responds that he doesn't need that. He remembers the face, he just wants the car to be ready, and also wants to know where Linfell is. That guy, by the way, is the real leader of the Lincia Guild, Gabriel Darius. Apparently, Linfell wasn't just the strongest in combat. The video our guy posted on IG and YouTube is of course causing a stir on social media. No one can believe someone faced off one-on-one with the tutorial boss with glitches. What didn't make sense was that if he was in Phantom, there was no way he could have a sword with an integrated weapon. Plus, those reflex skills seemed too strange. All of that made people wonder if the video was fake or if the kid was exploiting a bug that shouldn't exist. Man, this thing is already playing out almost like a blockbuster on the big screen, and no one can believe how quickly he reacted. Another analyst from the Lincia Guild named Laguna wants to know who this Ryu 7017 is. She considers herself a professional analyst, but even she can't understand how he defeated that boss. She tells the team that this definitely seems like some kind of bug they should already know about. But the guy with glasses says the face is definitely who he thinks it is, but it really shouldn't make sense. Then we see Linfell turning around, asking what this talk about Ryuki is. Damn, why are the villains always close to the most attractive ones? And there's Linfell saying he has no idea who that guy is. But the suited man responds that the analyst from 3 years ago, who used to make pretty solid guides, the one Linfell asked to be expelled from the guild, became a nobody. Linfell simply responds that the world is full of people with that same story. The man wants to know if he saw the video of the Black Knight, and Linfell says yes, he has seen it. To him, it seemed more like some kind of error because it's clearly impossible to kill that creature in the tutorial. Then the standing man says that Linfell needs to understand that the person in the video is exactly Ryuki and should know what that means. Linfell turns around angrily and tells his brother to stop talking about that bastard. Since when are they cowards worried about someone like him? They shouldn't even waste mental energy thinking about that kid. Gabriel simply chooses to say nothing, man. Another guy approaches and asks what they are going to do because he says that Ryuki seems to be trying to provoke them on purpose. Apparently, it seems like a trap, so it's better to be careful. First, they'll need to figure out where he went after being expelled from the guild to know what the next steps will be. He leaves telling himself there's no need to rush. They have time to gather information. The problem is figuring out how his brother is going to handle it. Back with our guy, Igon says he's already recovered 87% and can move. Our guy stands up soaked in blood, saying that the pain was worse than he imagined because Igon explains that of course it was. Several organs and muscles were torn, not to mention multiple broken bones. But Ryuki smiles, saying he'll get used to it soon, especially because he's going to experience it countless times. He keeps moving forward and sees a tower on the horizon. It was finally time to say goodbye to the tutorial. The Demon Tower is the main content of this world. The problem is that it's something he still can't access. First, he'll have to level up several skills in the dungeons around the tower as they progress. Igon says it's crazy that he shared the video. Now a lot of people know about him and they're going to want to kill him. But Ryuki says he doesn't think it's that serious. Most people will just think it's a mistake, and bugs happen all the time. Besides, the person at the top of NC tends to be much more cautious, so they'll want to gather information before deciding how to act. And that's exactly why he needs as much attention as possible. The more famous he becomes, the fewer options. NC will have to act against him because everything would become public. Not to mention that if that conversion works, as the robot explained, he can hide his body from this game world whenever he wants. It's like he's half disconnected, but since he doesn't have a real body in the real world, his disconnected state is like existing in a void, or at least that's what he thinks. And the little robot says he's using the system in a pretty smart way. Ryuki, on the other hand, just thinks he can't wait to get revenge on that damn Linfell. He's sure that once he starts making enough noise, that guy will try something. And that's exactly the moment he will attack the system. Then he says he's tired of all this talk. It's time to open some tickets. He had 20 rolls, 2 guaranteed S-rank rolls, and 15,000 points. Time to start rolling and test his luck. But Ryuki, he says going to the city is the priority because he has to secure a respawn point. However, Igon explains that this only happens to people brought from another world. Their body actually already exists in this world. At that moment, he activates the conversion system and returns to that store where he died. I'm a bit confused, but I think what happened is that now he really exists in that world. And when he converts, he comes from that world to this one, while people from Earth go from Earth to there. In the end, everyone is interacting with each other, right? But I think that's more or less the idea. He's there half confused, looking at himself, saying he was about to die, but now he feels nothing. The system says that's because he's too awesome. Also, it's better to block the cameras in that place first, but man, here come those gangsters again. Saying that bastard looks pretty healthy for someone who supposedly died. It can't be true, those gangsters. Set up a tent outside and just stay there all day. The alarm goes off. He simply gets up and walks out. Ryuki isn't stupid. He breaks the window and runs off. Man, and Gon says he's looking for an escape route and our guy follows the directions. But he ends up in a dead end. He punches the robot, saying that bastard led him straight to death. Apparently, but the little robot explains that everything has a reason. The gangsters catch up to Ryuki, and they say he's a bastard for making everyone run at this time of night. Now they want to know what he took out of the machine. Yesterday, the moment he disappeared out of nowhere. If he doesn't want to die, he just has to hand it over and everything will be fine. Obviously, there's no way Ryuki is going to hand over Higan just like that. The robot tells him to grab a wooden sword nearby. That's because, for now, he can't bring any objects from that world, so he'll have to use what's close. Ryuki picks it up, saying this is a joke. How is he supposed to fight those guys with that? But a small system window pops up. The gangsters start laughing, asking if the kid really thinks he's going to win using something like that. The guy in the tiger jersey lunges forward, telling him to surrender now. I'll make it worse. But then, bam! He gets hit in the arm and then one in the face. Everyone steps back, surprised, and the boss immediately orders everyone to rush in. There's even a guy in office clothes among the gangsters. But Ryuki says this is the most insane thing. Even in this world outside the game, he still has access to his abilities. He has no idea why that's possible. But he's sure he's ridiculously powerful. A few seconds earlier, when he hit that guy, everyone got confused. They seemed to have seen a strange glow. The boss, however, grits his teeth and tells everyone to attack as if they were going to lose to some unknown kid. But now the bastard is confident. That guy must have pulled out something really good to fight like that. Still, they are part of the Black Serpent, the group that dominates the territory of the unknowns, but his expression changes, his face darkens. And in the next second, only a bald guy remains, taking a hit to the head. Ryuki even asks, "Is this all you little thugs can do?" The moment he picked up that wooden sword from the ground, he understood what was happening. Most people send their bodies to interact with the avatar in the game, but he, on the other hand, sent his own body into the game, and that's why he feels so much pain there. Obviously, the advantage is completely unbalanced, because the stronger his body becomes in the game, the stronger it becomes in real life. I don't even know where they came from, but a bunch more thugs show up. Man, they all rush in, but against someone with SSR, they don't stand a chance. A small hit to the leg or arm, and their bones are already broken. Then our guy approaches, calling out to the leader, thanking him for the help he gave him yesterday. The coward is spinning a stick, trying to hit something, telling him not to come any closer. But Ryuki simply blocks it with a level 3 parry and immediately takes the weapon from his hands, asking if he thinks he can stop there. He can't just walk away. After all his lackeys were beaten down, the leader lunges to grab the stick, yelling for him to shut up. But he gets hit on the hand and screams in pain. He immediately tries to throw a small punch out of rage, but he also gets whacked in the mouth, falling to the ground like trash, and Ryuki says he now understands why this power feels so good. At this moment, he must be feeling just as good as they felt when they stomped on him that day. But he's sure that the broken look on the leader's face suits him much better. The guy starts begging for mercy, asking him to stop, but Ryuki says that the card they stole that day was his last hope, and still, the guy took it from him. So now they aren't leaving until they've lost all the hope they had left. The guy, crying, says that no unknown does something like this and gets away with it, but Ryuki man raises the club, saying that unfortunately, no one will find out what happened here. The coward is about to beg again, but we see one of his eyes roll, and his head tilt sideways. Damn, I thought he was going to be the kind of protagonist who really kills, but no. The robot just asks why he let them live. Ryuki responds that it was because of what the robot did, saying that unfortunately no one is going to find out what happened here. The coward is about to beg again. But we see one of his eyes spinning and his head turning sideways. Damn, I thought he was going to be the kind of protagonist who actually kills, but no. The robot just asks why they let them live. Ryuki replies that it was because of what the robot did. And to avoid raising suspicion, what the robot did was enter the minds of the gangsters and manipulate their vision, so they don't even know that Ryuki is still alive. Well, I forgive you this time, he says. But next time you better show me a death understood yes protagonist for me you have to kill. Don't come at me with that. Forgive the villain stuff. Then he says they will have to hide the existence of Igon. No one in this world can know an object like him exists. and grab any small knife and realizes that Laura activates while holding something that represents a blade or sword. He can still use it. And honestly, that knife was way more practical than carrying a damn sword. Ryuki was about to ask something, but the robot seems to read his mind, and answers before he even opens his mouth, saying no, his body isn't going to age any faster in the real world. That's because his true existence is now inside Yggdrasil, outside sometime later. Our boy is talking to the gang member, saying that this modern world is amazing. People recover super fast. Now it makes sense why he let the guy live. He tells him to hand over the ticket, or things are going to get ugly. The guy obviously says he's gathering money but needs more time, but that knife is already pressed against his forehead, and our boy says that since he spared his life, he better not forget it. The guy apologizes, and Ryuki tells him to start walking. They're going to look for him right now in the red district. There's a poor guy scratching his neck strangely. He seems to have some kind of demonic virus or something. One of the gang members shows up and kicks him out of the way, telling him to get lost. That place is a store called Shootin'-Ku, and the guy says most transactions go through there. Ryuki instantly realizes that's probably where his ticket was sold when a guy in a cloak enters, noticing a customer walked in. It sounded like the voice of an older person, and our boy asks if he's the owner. I don't know if this person is really that old, and I don't even know if it's a man. I have no idea what it is, but I know it's the store owner, and his name is Suzuki. The robot in digital form that only Ryuki can see says that thing in front of him isn't a person. It's analyzing his data in real time. Our boy had already noticed the weird voice and says that cybernetic robots like that should be banned. Suzuki says it's impressive that he noticed so easily, but it's ridiculous to talk about laws with someone who works in the black market. Then our boy wants to know what happened to the account creation ticket. Suzuki looks at the beaten gang member and realizes the situation, explaining that this object is one of the most popular ones out there, so it sold as soon as it arrived. He asks if that's all, and Ryuki says no, pulls out a bag, and says he's there to make some trades since that place specializes in that. Suzuki is going to check it out, saying he's curious to see what the kid brought, and seems surprised, right? I think those are the spheres he was farming in the dungeon before. He asks all this. These are mana spheres, and he asks if he even knows how valuable each one is, but Ryuki replies that they are clearly underestimating him. Just because he's a stranger doesn't mean he obviously knows something as basic as that. At least our guy should understand prices. He used to be a strategist in a guild. He's not dumb. I hope, at least in the dungeons, there are two types of items. The regular ones like swords, shields, and all that, and some called special ones. The special ones, for example, are things like potions, mana orbs, that kind of stuff. The higher the grade, the purer it is, and the more power can be extracted from it. But Suzuki responds that it makes no sense to sell something like that on the black market if the price is already set by the regular market. Why is he trying to do that here? Ryuki simply tells him to mind his own business and move on and sell. That's why he came to negotiate. However, Suzuki finds it strange, a stranger who doesn't have access to the game. Shouldn't have mana stones to sell then? He tells Luga, right? That little thug over there, to get lost. The guy is all twisted, asking if Ryuki allows him, who just tells him to scram. With that, the door explodes right above the poor guy. The seller then says it's really strange for a stranger to be selling mana stones, unless he stole them, but he also knows someone who has been challenging logic. Ryuki is about to ask what it is, and the guy says he's truly surprised. The star of that video just walked into his store. With that, he opens his arms welcoming Rarest 7017. If he wanted to hide his identity, he should have been much more careful. Especially carrying a mana stone like that, it's an item that specifically drops from the Black Chaos Knight, and you can see it in the app. With all that said, do you want to know what Ruse 7017 is doing in his store? Yeah, this modern world is crazy, dude. You upload 10 seconds of a video, and everyone already knows who you are. Ryuki simply admits that it's him and says they should focus on the business. Suzuki says it's fine and wants to know what our guy is looking for. He points to his head and says he's looking for a mod. The seller says he must be crazy. He doesn't even know what that island, but Ryuki responds that he knows their applications that artificially alter some things inside the maze. Even a stranger like him knows about that. The seller then says that apparently he knows nothing. Most mods were cancelled due to limitations or critical failures. Our guy, uninterested, simply says a black market seller must be the only one that still has some saved. He wants the ones that reduce game difficulty and doesn't care about side effects. Suzuki asks if he didn't see that guy outside the store scratching his neck. That guy is one of the unfortunate ones who tried to use a mod and ended up wrecked. Dude, what the hell is that? In my days, you tried to use a little hack and got banned. According to that was all. The poor guy fried his brain, and Suzuki. He says that was due to a simple pain reduction mod and caused all that. Obviously, the more changes you try, the worse the side effects can be. That guy tried to reduce the amount of pain he felt, and now all his other senses are extremely heightened. He's basically ruined, and even after removing the mod, he couldn't recover. From madness to instant death, even spontaneous combustion, all sorts of things can happen. And that's why mods are illegal. But then Ryuki says he's not just any player. It's no coincidence that he defeated the chaos. Night people are already calling him a cheater, so he should know how to play. He doesn't care about the cost or the risk. If there's any mod stored in this place, he wants it. Suzuki asks if he wants the ones that were discarded for being extremely dangerous. Ryuki simply says yes. He wants to take a look. The guy snaps his fingers and says, okay, then he can take a look at the discontinued ones. If he really has the guts to use something like that, he can start testing in the box. There are CDs. Dude, from version 1 to 25, I would never in my life install something from a CD in my head. You're crazy. But Ryuki is there, thinking he knows these things are risky. But he has his reasons. That first mod right there was attack. Triple power, and Igon is already saying that's going to be a total failure. In fact, they're just exaggerated numbers, and it doesn't even have effect. The next device theoretically gave the power to see 1 second into the future. Once again, Igon says it's trash. It's just going to make his vision blurry. The other mod made your character look amazing, and Igon says it's possible to do that with some kind of illusion. But it's useless. The other one increased all skill damage by 20% but would destroy his brain. Plus, it would increase the pain they feel 3,000 times, which clearly wasn't a good idea. Ryuki already realized all that was pure garbage, until he saw one that was a probability manipulator. Igon analyzes it and says the person who created that was truly a genius. It wasn't very effective, but it increased his luck by about 0.3 to 0.5%, and considering how it would be implemented in our guy, that would probably result in around 0.5 to 1 out of 100 for him. Ryuki knew that 1 out of 100 might not seem like much, but when it comes to luck, dude, that's a lot. Then he turns to Suzuki and says he's going to take 3 mods, including that one. The seller responds that apparently it's not just talk, and he really picked the few decent ones from that pile of trash. Obviously, the protagonist finds that peculiar because this jerk offered him trash from the beginning. The shopkeeper apologizes and says he wasn't trying to mess with the kid, it's just that another customer asked him to take a look at those mods, and he had already seen some of them. Then Ryuki wants to know if that request came from the person who created those mods, to which Suzuki responds that he'll find out soon and will also give a special discount since those things would never see the light of day otherwise. Then some messages pop up asking if he wants to install the applications, but warn that once he clicks yes, it's irreversible. He decides to install it, but then Suzuki says he wants to ask him one last thing. If these mods work, what does he want to do with that power? The scene doesn't provide an answer, brother. We see a tree, and sometime later, Suzuki is laughing like crazy on the ground. Our boy pointed up and told me he wants to reach the skies. He doesn't want to be bronze, silver, not even gold or platinum. He wants to defeat everyone in his path and reach the top. That crazy seller, who clearly has some kind of mental issue, responds that he's eager to see what the boy will do. Sometime later, back in the game, he's holding his ID card in the ghost world. He thought it would be difficult since he's a stranger, but obviously, no one would suspect anything after all. He's just a stranger. He shouldn't even be in the game, but now he had finally arrived at the starting village. Everyone is happy. The old man is selling his overpriced apples, and the kids are running around with their silly faces. In the middle of all that, our boy is impressed by how peaceful that place seemed. Suddenly, Igon appears telling him to start drawing tickets. It's been a while since he tested his luck. Ryuki tells the gacha addict to calm down a bit. He doesn't want to draw too much attention. But that's when our boy notices people looking at him strangely. The protagonist explains that he knows this all too well. It seems NPCs are made to be unlikable to players. Of course, that's because players don't treat NPCs like people either, which ends up creating this vicious cycle. Then a guy in a blue jacket is knocked to the ground. A guy with a beanie approaches, asking how he dared to try to rob him. The guy says he's hungry. Meanwhile, the protagonist wonders what's going on. Also, that NPC's clothes looked very different from everyone else's there, and he explains that guy seems to have come from another game in the maze called Alien Space, but that game was shut down 3 months ago. Or basically, the whole world over there was wiped out. The only way people could survive was by migrating to another game in the maze. Now it explains why there are a bunch of people wearing that strange clothing and starving adapting to a completely different world. Is not something that happens overnight. Egon says that as soon as a world is deemed useless by Yggdrasil, it gets eliminated immediately. So he'd better start running because that could even happen to Ghost. Ryuki responds that it's all good as long as he can destroy the Infel and that damn Lincia guild. Then he's satisfied. Sometime later, he managed to get a room at an inn and finally had a place to sleep at that moment. The robot was talking again, saying this is the perfect time to pull some tickets and play gacha. Plus, the odds had changed a bit, and the N and R items now had lower chances, and the SR and SSR were a bit better. SSR, which was 0.3% before, had now risen to 1%, more than 3 times higher. Then he tells Egon that the long-awaited moment has come, brother. It's time to spin the roulette. The robot immediately celebrates, saying he has 40 tickets too with guaranteed SR and 15,000 points. And that would be enough to open a bunch of things. Ryuki tells him to start with the 40 normal tickets. Obviously, his expression wasn't very excited, right? A bunch of N and R rank items in front of the poor guy started to pile up a heap of useless trash. He falls to his knees, unable to believe that he didn't get a single decent thing. Apparently, the mod he got was a lie. He didn't get a single item above R. The robot, however, says he can now open a toothbrush shop. To that, Ryuki grabs the little bastard, saying he's going to turn him into scrap. While the robot pleads to be let go, suddenly something shines from the sky. 3 guaranteed drops fall, right, brother? Immediately, his tone changes, saying he can always count on his partner. I don't know if he used those guaranteed tickets. But he managed to obtain a SR skill Swift Step and a SSR Intuition. Intuition at level 1 increased, being his instincts, but at its maximum level it would even allow him to understand the essence of the world. Swift Step was pretty obvious, of a fast movement skill. Now excited to see the effect, he activates Intuition, but at that moment he felt no difference. It didn't seem like anything compared to the other SSR skills he had obtained. He decides to take a look at the system, and there it says he will have to spend 7,000 points to level up, which for him is a complete rip-off, since the other skills cost 2,100 points to reach level 3, and Gon already says not to spend points on a skill. He doesn't even know what it does. It would be better to enjoy the thrill and pull more, because that's way more fun. But obviously Ryuki is not going to do that, brother. He is going to use those points to improve his skills. That's what he's going to do, mastery. With Sword and Block goes to level 4, and Swift Step to level 2. With that he had 8,730 points left. And it cost 8,400 to bring Mastery to level 5 while he sits there wondering if he should do it or not. The robot tells him he should go explore more. Obviously, he should pull more tickets and have fun, but the little bot splits in two when Ryuki commands the system to take Mastery with Sword directly to level 5, brother, and then the system says now that Mastery is at max, he can upgrade the rank just as he expected. It was worth reaching that limit when he activates the rank upgrade. A golden light appears. A stone orb forms in the room. He asks Egon what that is, but the poor bot is lying on the ground, devastated because he didn't get another chance to spin the gacha. The strange object keeps descending until the system grants him an achievement for maxing out Mastery. He earns 10 tickets, and he apparently became the system's Mastery Egon, an S-rank skill that not only increases his sword damage, but now also gives him a blade aura. Yuki had never heard of S-rank skills in the ghost world, so maybe this was the strongest skill in the entire continent. While the little system celebrates with open arms, he wonders why the luck system ended up paired with someone so cautious. All his plan was to witness the glorious fall of someone driven by greed. Ryuki is already at the door telling him to stop crying and move, because now they were finally ready to start. He wants to know what they're going to do, and obviously, brother, it's time to enter the first dungeon. And the plan wasn't just to enter the dungeon, but to set a record in it. Ah, sly little devil, now you're going to use those strategies you were selling to that guy Linfei, huh? You're going to embarrass everyone in front of the dungeon entrance. A guy with a giant axe asks his group if they are ready. From now on, everyone must stay alert and not let any item slip away. That's when our protagonist passes by, as if he's casually strolling. The guy immediately calls him out and asks where he thinks he's going without a group. He should know how dangerous this place is. But our guy simply says he knows exactly what he's getting into. The guys start to think they've apparently run into some lunatic they've never seen before, and his companion beside him, so important that they didn't even draw his eyes, says that in the last 3 months no one has managed to complete this place. The leader is sure it's a waste of time, but there's Ryuki, brother, the witch's hideout, and the goal was to break the record of the Infel sword gun ready aura active. It's time to break some records. The witch watches from her orb, saying once again that that bastard has invaded her domain. A filthy intruder like him shouldn't desecrate this sacred ground with his presence. But it was fine. She had ways to deliver judgment on anyone who tried to enter that place. She would tear him apart herself and offer him as a sacrifice. She was obviously the boss of the place, and her level was just a series of question marks. Just by entering the dungeon, the boy cleverly got a ticket. The only problem was that the place was so dark he couldn't see anything ahead. I mean, seriously, I see torches on the wall. This poor guy must be blind. Apparently, the major problem with this dungeon is that every time you enter it completely changes, so it's pretty hard to create a fixed strategy. You're sure the hell completed it in 17 hours and 30 minutes, brother. What the hell? 17 hours in the first dungeon. You better bring a wife and start a family while farming. Checking the rankings, I see that second place is held by someone named Asia, or rather a person called Asia from the Gas clan. And they only took 8 minutes longer than Linfell, considering they were almost as good as Linfell. That's a name worth remembering. Suddenly, he stops, and looking up, there's a swarm of mosquitoes. Wait, those aren't mosquitoes. They're giant bats. The problem is that they don't just move in large groups, but they also accumulate a ton of disadvantages. So even if you don't die immediately, you keep suffering until you can't take it anymore. But he's already pulling out an item, saying that's a story from the past. He throws something on the ground and tells Igon, "This is how you handle this place." The thing explodes, spreading light everywhere. And if you thought it was a flash grenade, you're totally wrong. It was a sound bomb, and now those bastards are dropping all over the place with bleeding ears. For a second, I felt sorry for the bats, but then bam! Sword in the chest. The guy shows no mercy. He already cleared the farming area, cutting down everything that moved. He says this place isn't so hard, once you know the tricks. What he wants to know, though, is why no one has finished this place in the last 3 months, and Gon wants to know why. That would be weird, so Ryuki explains that theoretically, this is supposed to be a low difficulty dungeon, so why is everyone having so much trouble? Something else must be going on. They continue moving through the cave, and Gon wants to know if he's sure they're on the right path. Our boy tells him not to worry. He knows the patterns of this place, even though the map always changes. There, Gon may not know it, but he wrote countless strategy guides when he was an analyst. He's simulated this dungeon here thousands of times, so he knows exactly what he's doing. And Gon, however, comments that they've passed through this area like 12 times. It wouldn't be embarrassing to admit he's lost, but Ryuki just ignores him and turns left. Saying the entrance is right ahead, he tells him to look at that stalactite on the left, the one with a cut. They had to go through this path 32 times, and when the cut appeared, it was proof that the route had changed. The little robot is confused, wanting to know how he reached such an accurate conclusion. Obviously, it can't have been trial and error thousands of times, and Ryuki just tells him to shut up, because now he has to concentrate. But to make Igon happy, he explains that they had someone in the group who had a certain skill that helped discover those things. And in the past, before strategy guides were developed, people really used to memorize every element of the map and tried to guide themselves that way. So even though everything changes, he still has an idea of where to go. The robot asks if he really memorized all those little differences in such a useless place like this, and he laughs, saying that now he realizes his master is completely crazy while they continue through the cave. Ryuki is sure he has spent more time here than he wanted, not to mention that he still didn't understand why no one had finished this in the last 3 months. Meanwhile, the witch is screaming, saying that she apparently escaped the maze, but now she will fall into despair. The second she steps on the death magic, she will die instantly, and bro, that's exactly what she just did. Something activates a flame, surrounds her body. It freezes for a moment. Egon wants to know what happened, and he replies that he isn't sure, but he felt he was going to die if he took another step, so he pulls out a strange doll from his inventory and throws it forward. As soon as it touches the ground, the flames appear again. He recognizes them immediately. That was instant death magic, something extremely rare that should only appear much later in the tower, because there was something like that in this place, and Gon immediately says that if unknown changes are happening, it's better to retreat. And now Ryuki is lost in his thoughts. Such a brutal trap right from the start was dangerous. Maybe it would be better to go back. But when he looks back, he sees a strange path, and for a moment feels it would be okay to go that way. He starts to realize that those instincts, and even the fact of having detected the trap, are thanks to the intuition skill observing through the orb. The witch says that this bastard is really lucky. He survived for a second, but it was only a matter of time, no matter where he went in this endless maze. He would eventually die, but suddenly he disappears from her orb. She is confused, uses a new spell, and locates him again. But now it makes no sense. He is in the central hall, which is far from where he was before. Apparently that damn rat managed to escape the illusion, but it's fine. This place is full of traps, and that's where he will die. Except a second later Ryuki disappears again. She is confused and slams the table in anger, trying to understand what the hell that bastard is doing. Our boy was jumping along the very edges of the traps, dodging them all. The witch had no idea how he was doing it or why. He kept disappearing from her sight. So she decides to end it all before something else goes wrong and activates all the traps at once. A blue flame surrounds the entire orb, and she celebrates, saying, "Finally, I got rid of that damn intruder." But behind her, something explodes. A voice from behind says that the materials weren't that good, but there were still things worth using. Igon's voice keeps saying that if she had any common sense, she would deactivate that ability immediately. The witch turns around and sees the two of them talking, and Gon is scolding him, saying that that new ability of his is totally broken and that he can't go around with something like that. Naturally, the witch. He wants to know how the hell they got there, but our guy says he's too lazy to explain, so they're going to handle this quickly. He knows very well that she is the Witch of Solitude, known as Serial, or rather, there was another name that suited her much better. Book. The witch says the answer she wants is for that bastard to say how he got out of the traps. Ryuki replies that he almost lost his head on the way to this place. It was filled with deadly things everywhere. Igon wants to know why he's speaking in such a weird tone. A little before that, our guy was looking at the ground, observing the traps and wondering if there was any way to get past them. Maybe he should wait until the bug in this place was fixed. But then he remembered he needed his name to be known by everyone, before his old guild came after him. It was then that Igon said he had detected multiple traps. At that point, it was definitely better to retreat. Then half the room exploded and he jumped to the side. Igon went crazy, saying that bastard was trying to commit suicide. But then our guy told him to calm down. That skill he had gotten was even better than he thought. Back with the witch, she says the intuition skill is really good. The guy is even showing it to her, telling her that's how he got to the room. This one he wanted to explain in detail. Igon says that no matter how good at Island, it's still tied to a human, so eventually, it will reach its limit. Ryuki prepares to attack, saying that's obvious, but what matters now is surviving. Suddenly, the window showing the witch's name starts to glitch, and she screams the intruder's name. Several instant death traps appear in front of her, and Ryuki lunges in, landing the first attack just in time. If it weren't for the skill, he would be dead. He starts to realize that the witch seems to be getting corrupted by the bug inside her. Whatever her master was, he didn't have time to figure it out. He had to attack now, so he uses Swift Step to get closer, with his sword aura active, saying she's really dangerous. But this is the end. 1. A clean cut to the neck, separating the robot's body from its head. Ryuki thinks that was too easy. Then the attacks keep coming from the rest of its body that's still there. He manages to back away, and when he looks again, she's reforming. Now he's sure she is the reason for everything that has been happening in this dungeon. The problem is that regular attacks didn't seem to do anything to her. She casts another wave of spells in his direction, which he manages to dodge while advancing. At that moment, the key was to keep his intuition skill active at its maximum, because without it, he would die on the spot. While dodging, he turns and asks if Igon has any ideas, and Igon responds that just to help the guy, he's going to activate the system so he can try to analyze her. As soon as it says to show in the window, a level 25 bugged Witch of Solitude appears with infinite regeneration and instant death. You activate it, and looking at her, you could see a strange wing on her back with the word death written on it. What he notices is that the wings had strange colors, so he moves forward and uses Analyze, but only on the wings. It is then that he discovers it was an item from the game Beyond Space. He remembers it's the same one they came from. Those dozens of abandoned people in the city now made sense. They were causing this bug while Ryuki dodged the attacks. Igon is recording everything and says he's going crazy in the middle of that situation where a single touch would mean his death. He had a smile on his face. The guy is throwing out motivational Instagram quotes and says that on the way to the top of humanity, a fire like that wouldn't stop him. Meanwhile, the witch is preparing a mega attack from behind, saying that the damn intruder is going to die. Ryuki sees it and thinks it's quite simple. If a single touch means death, then just don't let the boss touch you. She continues charging the sphere until it suddenly explodes in the middle of the room. She seemed confident, saying there was no way he could have dodged that. So this time he was dead. But of course, Ryuki already had his sword on his back, moving forward with pure determination. In fact, he was already mounted on her back, saying that wasn't her original power and that's why she couldn't control it properly. Just by touching it, the object seemed to be disappearing or interacting in a strange way. Clearly, that was a bug. The desperate witch tells him not to cut it because those wings gave her freedom. She had been fulfilling her role in that dungeon for a long time and without questioning it, just moving forward. But then she found those wings on the ground, and that freed her from that magic, and she was finally able to live. Ryuki responds that if she fled from the circumstances they were in, then they were similar in some way. He was also fighting to get out of this horrible world. The witch says that if that's the case, then they should understand each other. But our king of Instagram phrases just says that to reach glory, her freedom must be destroyed. And with that, he tears off her wings. Brother even activated the aura of the sword in his other hand to crush the second wing, and then she seems to have been defeated. At that very moment, all the witch's stats return to normal, and she simply becomes the creature she was supposed to be in that place. She even goes back to doing her standard routine, saying that the intruder infiltrated her hideout. The poor is there giving her speech, but he simply stabs her in the chest. Yes, this guy doesn't hesitate at all. And besides that, he pulls her to the side, cutting her completely, saying that now that she's back to normal, nothing changes. He has to finish her off to be able to move on with that little monster's hand. He simply falls to the ground without mercy for the boy, who received a total of 13 standard tickets and 1 SR ticket plus 500 experience points. A magic stone and the heart of Ciriele. Oh, Yuki was somewhat disappointed. Just a little stone, a heart, and 500 points. That knight who gave 15,000 was apparently something abnormal, and Gon tells the boy that even with luck, it doesn't always work out. To get good things, brother has to get used to a normal life, to which he responds that it's all good, an SR ticket for— Yes, that was already more than enough to make it worth it. Besides, what matters is breaking the record of the infel at the dungeon entrance. The guy with the big axe is furious because they failed again. The guys are cursing each other, blaming one another, saying it was because he died, because he did this or that. Meanwhile, in the cave, Ryuki is coming out, hearing all the commotion. Just then, one of the guys is talking about cooperation. They see our boy passing by and say it's incredible that he stayed inside for 7 hours. He must have hidden a bunch. But now seeing him walk away, they think he gave up. Time for the boy to face reality. But then a little window appears behind the fool, showing the updated information of the dungeon. Our boy finished in 7 hours. 10 hours less than dear Linful. The guys are already wondering if he's not the same guy who just came out of that place. Suddenly, the guy puts his sword next to Ryuki's neck and tells him to stay there, wanting to know what trick he used. It's impossible for someone to cut 10 hours without using some kind of cheat or something like that. Ryuki is honest. Brother simply says there was really a bug and he took advantage of it. To finish quickly, that's the good thing about honesty. No one questions if he's lying. The bad thing is now everyone says that the bastard should feel ashamed for completing a dungeon using things like that, but Ryuki simply keeps walking, saying that the back no longer exists. Better start farming quickly, or they'll stay weak forever. The sword guy tries to go against him, saying that a cheating bastard like him has no right to give moral lessons, but our boy simply dodges him with ease. Maybe he gives a punch, an elbow, it's not clear. Maybe he just pushes him. All I know is that the fool ends up on all fours on the ground while our boy walks away. The guy stays there swearing that one day he will kill him, but the guy with the axe just says, "Idiot. We can't defeat that bastard." The guy insists, but the boss tells him to stop being stupid, and points out that if the boy managed to use the bug and make it work, he should realize the truth. The group understands, right? If he not only used the bug but also managed to overcome it, then clearly he was well above the level of that place. But still, they find it somewhat incredible. The boss starts to feel like he has seen that face somewhere before. He's remembering the video of the Night of Chaos but can't connect the dots. Then we see some locations. White Lake, the forest, of the Red Spider and the ruins of the ancient gods. All these were more famous girls where Linful's team held the record. There was one more that could be good, but 3 were enough for him for now. The robot wants to know why, and he explains that it seems another guild managed to take the record about 2 years ago, the skilled girl from the Asia group of Guild HS. Guys, is it just me or haven't we seen a real badass waifu yet? True, right, brother? Damn, artist, what's going on, bro? Let's use that little bit of talent. Want me to lend you a compass? So you can draw some circles, but Ryuki isn't worried about waifus. He's worried that damn girl came too close to his hell record, which makes him a bit angry since he was the one who developed the tips. Wow, brother, now that I notice she has white hair, right? That could be that damn Cynthia, maybe. She deserves to die, eh? Damn bitch. But then he stands up, saying enough talk. It's time to take care of some more girls. Meanwhile, inside the demon tower, it's the Hell group, and Kasano is the one giving orders to everyone. Then, a little window appears for him, a picture of a giant octopus, maybe the boss of the White Lake. There was also a picture of a dying spider that, yes, brother, that's the spider from the Red Forest. There was even a golem defeated there, and Linfil is already telling the group to take care of the loot because something urgent came up. Lying on the couch, he wonders who that boy Island. The boy was deliberately focusing on breaking his records, which showed he was looking to provoke a fight. Maybe the bastard thought he was the big deal. The boss mentioned this name, Ryuki. But no matter how much he thinks, he has no idea who that person is, brother. That's rough. The guy literally doesn't have the slightest clue about our boy's face in his memory. Just then, someone opens the door, calling for Linfel, saying that boy Ryuki is streaming live. The analyst Laguna, as always, is analyzing. And our boy posted all the records, brother, from the dungeon with Book to Uparn. Varan and the Great Golem can't believe he has cleared 4 dungeons and broken all the records almost simultaneously. Obviously, the result of that was nearly 2 million views in 3 days. The attention he received was expected. After all the fuss with the Black Knight, there was still something he couldn't understand about the objects and their reactions. But at the same time, he was using an extremely advanced strategy that would require knowing every element of those places, not to mention that the scariest part was that he surpassed the witch's hideout, which no one had managed to do in the last 3 months. A lot of people on the internet, right, are saying it's a bug, a trick, or something like that, but regardless of all that, it's clear that the dungeon was cleared, and he's there with the record for someone to have such advanced strategies. I would need to have an extremely high-level analyst with him to see which guild is backing the kid. Poor girl has no idea. She's not Sanji Wu, but she's only doing solo leveling. Our guy is still on his phone. He says they must be very distracted now with all those videos, but compared to what he's about to launch, that's nothing. Ryuki says this idea is really different from the others, since now he's basically going to declare himself an enemy. He sits in the chair and the robot tells him to think it over first. It would be good to get stronger before doing something like that. Everyone still sees him as a rookie, but Ryuki just thinks that even if Aigon is right, he can't stop until those guys give a response. His mind got stuck 3 years ago, and all that remained inside it was desperation and hate. Those were the reasons he kept living. Our guy then started the live broadcast and introduced himself as Ryu 7017 Ryuki inside the game Labyrinth. It was a shame, but today's video wasn't about completing a dungeon. Today he was going to reveal the truth everyone wants to know. The guy started the denunciation broadcast. Bro. The first impressions were that he looked a bit more normal than they expected. Our guy then says everyone seemed curious about the unknown written on his profile, and the truth is that's exactly what he was. Unknown in the literal sense. It was hard for them to believe that someone without an account had managed to enter the game Labyrinth, but that was the truth. He didn't create an account, and he wasn't chosen by any guild. He guarantees that he is one of the poorest unknowns out there, bro, without the slightest chance. And about how he's playing, he summarizes, saying he basically just got lucky, and doesn't care if they don't believe him, because that's the truth. Looking at Linfel, he says that Bastard is trying to lie, pretending to be unknown. Then Ryuki says he became unknown because he was falsely accused. He's making this video because he's sure that Bastard Linfel and the Linsa Guild are watching. They better remember the face that was thrown into the abyss. He suffered in that hell but managed to escape, and now they better be ready, because their time has come. In a room surrounded by cards, a hat-wearing man says it seems an enemy of Linsa has appeared. Card H says the views aren't a joke, and B responds that apparently now they're going to hunt the kid. The man in the hat comments that if this is one of Linfel's entanglements, Gabriel has surely deleted all the data. Card J says Linfel and his group are promising, so it's worth keeping an eye on them. But H responds that for him that team is kind of pathetic. The guy in the hat, however, wants to know what they're going to do since Linsa won't be able to ignore Ryu 7017. The two cards, however, aren't very motivated, saying they already have a ton of things to deal with. The man says he's fine. He'll keep watching, but maybe he'll act on his own. The cards disappear, saying they were already waiting for him and say goodbye. The man also says goodbye, stating he'll follow the path he finds most interesting in the guild Linsa Gabriel. He's giving an interview while being bombarded by reporters. Everyone wants to know about this Ryuki, and what connection he has with the guild. He reveals that yes, the boy was once part of the team, but due to an internal accident, he was expelled and has no relationship anymore. However, The reporter says that the boy in the video claims he was falsely accused and wants to know if that's true. The guy responds that it's a complete lie, but the reporter insists, saying there are several other suspicious rumors about how they've been acting from malicious behaviors toward other players to alleged collusion with the developers of that place. They were using their influence in the game to pressure the developers to change how dungeons were regulated, even to the point of altering how items were acquired. As the leader of the guild, the reporter wants to know Gabriel's opinion on all those accusations. And like a good shady politician, he says they're all lies, just attempts to tarnish the name of the guild Linza. They've gathered new information about what was said. River 7017, and soon everything would return to normal. While Gabriel was doing that live broadcast, someone was watching it in a store. Our guy walks in and the person immediately says everyone is talking about him. Ryuki responds that he doesn't care about any of that. What matters is why this old man's voice is coming from such a healthy girl's body. To which the guy responds that that's the best part of having a completely prosthetic body. The only woman who even fixes herself a bit in this story is actually an old man with a robot body. What a mess. Ryuki then just says he's fed up and wants to see the mods, but Suzuki shows him the same old ones. Our guy immediately tells him to stop offering trash, especially because he already said he could find the person who delivers the good mods. Just then Suzuki says he understands, saying that Ryuki wants to talk to the person who creates the mods. He reaches under his kimono, pulls out a CD, and says this is what he was told to deliver if someone came looking for him. If anyone managed to find him using the information inside, then they'd be given the chance to speak with him. Ryuki just thinks that for someone to have gone through all that, they must be quite powerful. Egon takes a look and sees it's a visual mod that would interfere with his visual system and recover all kinds of information. The only problem is that it's more advanced than the previous ones. Therefore, the risks are also greater. Our guy thinks he really doesn't care about that. What he really doesn't like is this feeling that they're putting him to the test. So he takes off his little backpack and tells Suzuki he brought a little gift, everything he's been hunting these past few days. Basically, he drops the items from the videos where he broke records on the ground and tells him to sell everything. He'd be well compensated, damn. Dude, how rude. He throws it on the ground like it's nothing. He says he's been walking through the streets of the city. He has been seeing the objects from the girls popping up on YouTube, and that he's actually making some money, obviously. Egon told him to take advantage of that positive moment to roll some pulls in the gacha. Dude, it's time to bet a little. But he says no, that there's still one more person he needs to see. Then someone raises their hand and calls him. The guy with that K-pop hairstyle tells our boy that it's been a while since they saw each other. Egon thinks a weirdo just popped up. Because nobody is friends with Ryuki, right? The guy is a total loner. But when he greets Ryuki, the robot is shocked that this bastard actually has a friend in this world. Looking at the guy's hand, our boy remembers Yggdrasil from their clothes. It seems they were friends from school. The guy asks if they can talk for a bit, and dude, our boy is squeezing his own hand so tight that his green veins are standing out. He says sure, he doesn't mind talking. Damn, I thought they were friends, but clearly they're not, and the guy is already walking with him, saying it's good to see him calm and all while making a weird gesture with his hand behind his back, and there are a bunch of guys preparing guns behind him, and he's saying he missed his friend. What the hell, dude? There are people on the rooftops and everything. Chill out, man. The idiot is giving that fake speech saying he missed him, that he almost didn't recognize him. But Ryuki just says it seems there are a lot of eyes watching them both. Dude, I thought there was going to be a fight. But now we're in a cafe, relaxed, and the guy is apologizing for everything that happened 3 years ago. Ryuki keeps it real. He just asks if the guy really thinks his apologies make any difference. Brutal. Now the guy is just sitting there, with that dumb face, and Ryuki wants to know if he called him just to hear apologies. The guy says no. He has a plan for Ryuki to get back to bronze rank. Now, I don't even know what's going on. He hasn't even realized that our boy is the real Ryuki. What's happening? I'm starting to suspect everything. Our boy wants to know if that's even possible, and the guy starts explaining the plan. But then, flashback moment. Ryuki was shouting for Garcia, saying there was only a week left until his mother's surgery. The man was lying on the ground like trash. But then a flashback moment, Ryuki was calling out to Garcia, saying that there was only 1 week left for his mother's surgery. The man was lying on the ground like trash, clutching the guy's letters, begging him to cover the surgery costs. Oh man, what a loser. He kicked him and told him not to touch him with those dirty, disgusting hands. How gross. And then people wonder why our boy ended up all dark and bitter. Next scene, he's just staring at his mother's body. And a voice even says that maybe it was for the best. After all, he wouldn't have been able to cover the surgery costs anyway. For someone unknown, like him, keeping up with payments would have been impossible, obviously. Ryuki's expression didn't end very well. After that, back to the present, Ryuki tells the bastard to stop with the theatrics. With a snap of his fingers, reveals that the guy was a developer from the game Space Alien, which, yes, is the one that went bankrupt. Considering he is now in such a miserable state, what kind of help could he offer? Ryuki simply stands up and says goodbye. But the guy tells him to wait, warning that if he doesn't talk to him, he'll send all the information he has about our boy to the Lance. He should know very well what will happen, since he used to work there, to be honest. What could they do to him, right? Our boy doesn't seem to have any family at all. At most they could go after him. But they were going to do that anyway, back to the past. When our boy delivered the first tutorial to Gabriel back then, Linful wasn't the boss, it was his older brother, who chose our boy, saying that for a beginner he was incredible. Since then he would closely watch every guide he posted. Garcia, showing the letter, says he must have some idea of how terrifying that man was, so he'd better consider the offer. Ryuki's expression changes, he turns around, and at that moment the guy looks confident, thinking they're finally about to negotiate. But Ryuki simply snatches the paper from his hand and asks, when the hell is he going to shut up? What the hell, brother Garcia, already? Pulling out a knife, saying that a dirty guy like him lost all sense of how to behave in this place. Lunges to attack our boy, but all he gets is a hand on his neck. Ryuki just says that the one who lost his sense of danger was him. Apparently the fool was eager to meet his death. He slams him against the wall. After all, you can't just kill someone in plain sight, right, brother? Then walks away, saying he'd better never see his face again. Garcia quickly sends a message to the group, warning that the target is escaping. The moment Ryuki steps out of the store, bam, 36 guns pointed at him. Everyone shouting to surrender and put his hands behind his head, but in a split second the first guy has his gun ripped from his hands. And our boy makes a move so quick that even the artist couldn't capture it. The kid is moving so fast he's slipping out of the frames. Get back here, kid, I can't even see you anymore. The damn witch yells. He's up there on the rooftop. You see, I used lightning step level 3. The poor guys didn't stand a chance, and he's even impressed by how aggressive they're being and gone, so he says our boy's stress levels are rising. What's bothering him so much? He just replies that it's nothing serious. At least now things are clear, he knows the next steps. First, it's time to go back to the ghost world. The scene shifts to Gabriel, who says he's disappointed in Garcia. It seems this is how he pays back the trust he was given. The fool apologizes, but says he has crucial information, like how Ryuki is 25 years old. Gabriel just tells him to shut up. Honestly, that information is trash. I'm with Gabriel on this. Brother warns him not to say a single thing that the entire guild doesn't already know. Then he says the kid got something from a random box, and that's how he accessed the game. He just needed one more chance to fully investigate and find out what really happened. Gabriel says they already know about the ticket acquired in that area. It was his bastion, and he's already confirmed it. What he's sure of is that someone is sponsoring Ryuki, and that's the information Garcia wants. However, he thinks it's impossible to know which lunatic would support a complete nobody like him. To that, Gabriel turns around and says he wasted his time talking to trash that would betray even an unknown friend. For a bit of money, damn it, he hired the guy for the job. And now he's humiliating him for accepting the job. That was harsh. The psychological damage was too much. And here he comes pulling that knife again. Hey brother, you really need to drop that habit. Yeah, you took a step forward, but they put their hand on your head. And you kissed the pavement. Too eager for your own good, brother. It was Gabriel who landed the blow. I thought he was like a security guard from behind, but the guy is that fast. He says apparently this bronze must be crazy for trying to attack a member of Linza. Normally, he'd have to be eliminated, but out of mercy, he'll just let him become a no-name. Now the idiot is being dragged, begging for forgiveness, saying he doesn't want to become a nobody. Yeah, but it's too late, brother. He's out. That uncontrolled guy totally earned that degradation, and now Gabriel is deep in thought. He remembers that. Bastard was actually a decent analyst, but that was it. There was no way to compare that. Ryuki with Linfell, who was the obvious choice. But somehow that kid always had something special. It was time to discover what the secrets of that account were. Back in the ghost world, our boy falls into the city like thunder, now appearing fully equipped with his little armor, and as always, he's already telling them to throw. It's time to do gacha, but our boy has more important things to do. He says he wants a crowd, looking around to see what's about to happen. The views on his videos keep rising and he knows it won't be long before those guys make their move, especially since those bastards are the biggest guild in the ghost world. He takes off the helmet, saying it's time to activate the trap. Just then, people start pointing out, saying look at him. Everyone seems to recognize him, right? The unknown from the video everyone has been talking about. Ryuki had 92 tickets, 5 guaranteed SR, and 8,500 points. First things first. Let's start with a roll of 10, bro. The items fall in front of him, filled with useless junk as always. He gets discouraged, no SR dropped, and the robot says that unfortunately there's no guarantee with the boxes. The only thing it can guarantee is that it's going to laugh in the protagonist's face, and there it is, spamming laughs all over the screen while our boy is just sitting there with a mountain of trash, has lost the will to live, wondering how. He didn't get anything with a 3.6% chance. Igon tells him not to give up. No true gacha addict would stop here. That's when he grabs the SR cards and says that the game actually starts now. The first one gives him a Phoenix Feather SR rank, a necklace that allows you to revive once. Considering that many of the bosses in the game have those instant death attacks, maybe it is worth it. The second box falls. He's sure this time he's going to get a brutal weapon or skill, but what's inside is a toothbrush rank. SR the robot congratulates him, saying that he is now officially the king of toothbrushes, but Ryuki is confused. There must be something special about that magic toothbrush. It can't be normal. Igon explains that the star next to the name means it's a special item, which means he can use it in the real world. Wants to know what the hell he's supposed to do with that in the real world, and the robot says, well, he can brush his teeth and destroy any cavities. Ryuki throws a punch in frustration, but the damn robot dodges it. The problem now is that he only has 3 cards left, and with each bad draw, the chances of getting something good are fading, so he decides to open the last 3 at once. Usually that's when something good comes out. He's biting his lip, praying for a decent weapon, but what he gets are 3 copies of the weapon sword. The robot is dying of laughter while everyone watches him lying on the ground. Defeated, he's crushed. He doesn't understand how he spent all those tickets and still ended up with nothing. The people nearby are somewhat confused, not really knowing what's going on. I'm not sure if they can even see what he's doing, like the items that appear. I don't think they can, and the guy next to him is already thinking about reporting him to Linza to come and take the kid out then. Igon says he has good news for the protagonist. After drawing so many SR items, he finally unlocked the combination system. He can't reveal what other functions are in that system, but just know there's more. Our guy wants to know why the robot didn't say that before instead of laughing in his face, which is still twisted going around, saying that it's irresistible to laugh at a loser like him. Then the system appears it had skill combinations and item combinations. And in items, there was also a dismantle option that allowed him to break down items into random box points, instead of combining them. The combination itself has no mystery, right, bro? You combine 2 items, and they get enhanced. Combine 2 swords, and it shows up, with a little plus sign at the end. He wants to know if there's a limit to how many times he can combine something. He puts 2 already combined swords into the system, and again it seems to be working. Excited, he jumps shouting, "Combine it, bro." I thought it was going to fail, but no, it really got enhanced, and the object became huge. It's the great sword now with the name and that J at the end. Apparently now it can really be used as a ranged gun, because before it kind of only worked halfway, as if it were stuck or something, laughing like a maniac. And the robot says his vital signs are starting to get strange, so he spends the rest of his points to upgrade his counterattack to level 5, and now he has an SRIGG with a star at the end, right? We already knew that part. He can use it in real life. That's when he starts to wonder what happens if he combines 2 skills that are already at max level. The system shows that he could get the skill ***, Holy Sword Shin, ***, Celestial Sword, ***, or ***, God of the Sword, ***, which immediately makes him explode against Igon, asking why even skill combinations are completely random, to which the robot replies that it wouldn't be fun without a bit of luck. He just needs to keep trying to see if he gets a Transcendent Plus skill. Our guy wants to know the odds of getting one of those. The robot says an incredible 2%. The guy is out of his mind and decides to try it, and yes, he gets lucky. But all he ends up with is ***, Holy Swordsman, ***. It was basically mastery and defense at max level 3. With sword energy at level 1, it also granted extra SP when leveling up, but since it's not completely maxed out, he can still evolve it further. He's about to tell Igon something when suddenly someone approaches him from the side. The guy puts a sword to his neck and asks if he's Ryu 7017. Our guy thanks him, saying that finally, Lin sent someone. He was starting to think they were taking too long. He starts to say it's crazy to attempt a P.E.K.K.A. inside the city, but the guy simply cuts his throat. The hooded man says he shouldn't worry about such insignificant things. The P.E.K.K.A. rule only says you can't kill anyone, but it doesn't say anything about inflicting pain. Ryuki knows this is Lin's usual strategy, especially since the sensation is too realistic, so he asks why the guy is wearing a mask when it's obvious he's a spear. Dude, I don't know if he's another type, but he gets hit by another sword strike, this time from behind, and the man warns him to understand that from now on, he'll never know peace in this game. No matter where he hides, they'll find him and kill him. Ryuki turns around and says that if he believes this world belongs to Lin's, the guy tells him to keep laughing, because soon the only thing he'll do is scream in pain. But in the next attack, Ryuki activates lightning step and grabs the sword. He approaches the guy and says that 3 strikes are enough for him not to be seen as the villain in this scene. The hooded man then realizes that the kid has been holding back from the beginning, and now he's the one being cut. Everyone nearby can feel the guy's pain. Dude. The knife is also being driven straight into his back. Ryuki wants to know what happened to the guy, who was supposed to hunt him down throughout the game and make him scream in pain normally in this world. The more defense you have, the less pain you feel. But our boy, yeah, he doesn't follow the rules of the game, and apparently, the guy is trying to close in the session but can't. Ryuki says it's good to know in a place where no one can die, it's the perfect setting to leave someone sitting and suffering. He keeps swinging his sword back and forth, saying that this revenge is just beginning. It's then that Egon warns him to be careful. A bunch of hooded figures surround him on all sides. One of them, with a brooch on the shoulder, calls out to Ryuki and says he's going straight to the point. It would be better if Ryuki left the ghost world, and even better if he quit being a player altogether. If he agrees, they will let him pass. Ryuki, pulling out a second sword, says they're being too generous, offering him such a noble favor. He drives his sword into the guy's back again and says they were the ones who provoked him first. The guy with the brooch replies that clearly, this bastard was more dangerous than he expected. Ryuki tells him to run, but the guy says that's not an option. Besides, he's curious about what that sword Island Ryuki tells him to take off the mask and he'll explain, but the guy simply replies that's not going to happen. He says Ryuki should have used the boxes he got to live a peaceful and hidden life. But he wanted too much attention, and now he's in trouble. A real shame. But his plans end here, right? At that moment, all the hooded figures attack Ryuki, who is just standing there like a fool but dodges the first hit and steps back to avoid the second. The guy with the blue bangs comes from behind thinking that Ryuki isn't anything special. But this is where it ends. Only Ryuki has already activated Holy Swordsman and cut the first attacker. Apparently, the guy managed to defend himself, but his whole sword cracked. He didn't understand how someone who hadn't even reached the demon tower was already using aura. Such a technique normally consumed a ridiculous amount of mana, so using it like this was crazy. He decides to try again, saying that weak aura won't do anything. But Ryuki simply deflects it, using his sword, which has its own aura, and says they probably don't even realize what he's doing. He delivers a hit to the guy's chest, and another one falls, or better said, is just incapacitated since no one dies here. The leader at least is smart. He sees how quickly Ryuki blocked with aura and wonders if it was a parry, like in other games. Ryuki simply replies that they're starting to realize the more they try, the worse it will go for them. To help them decide, he reveals that his ability doesn't consume mana, which means that right now, he is the only one who won't get tired before the guys can even process what he just said. Bam! Another slash of the sword strikes right in the middle of one's head. From the sound of the blood, it seems that thing went in deep. Speaking of going deep, there's a little girl with white hair. Is that you, Cynthia, treacherous viper? Don't you think I forgot your name? Another guy's leg is in pieces, and the leader tells them to be careful. Somehow, the pain from this guy's attacks feels worse. They reorganize into blade formation and hide, each one pulling out their class setups and all that. At that moment, Ryuki responds that if someone is pulling out Nightfall, then they're not trying to hide anymore. He knows a double sword user named Cassius very well, not as famous as Linful, but still known, and definitely not someone people want to see in action. Cassius activates a binding magic to Libra to paralyze the guy and finish him off. Chains shoot up from the ground and wrap around Ryuki. Everyone starts preparing their best skills, and 3 attacks fly toward our guy. Cassius knows how the parry works. If there's nothing solid to counter, it won't work well, and by Ryuki's face, it seems he's right. Asterisk, brother. A burst of flashes all around. Asterisk, but when the smoke clears, someone is standing there without a scratch, wearing that goofy face while Igon explains that now that the skill has evolved, it can also defend against non-physical attacks. Still, Ryuki is spinning his sword, saying he's a bit disappointed. It seems he'll have to be more careful with long-range fighters. Asterisk, brother. Asterisk before Darius could say anything, He took a bullet straight to the chest. He fell like trash to the ground, calling for reinforcements. Our guy says it's really sad to see the boss go down with just a little bullet. He hadn't even started having fun, but the guys are completely confused. How the hell? Does this bastard have a revolver shooting in the middle of a fantasy world? Our guy is there holding 3 huge revolvers. Asterisk, brother. Asterisk against monsters like golems. They're not very useful. But against humans, it's a different story. Especially in a world like this where that kind of object shouldn't even exist. He warns them that everyone who came for him today will leave here crawling. Somewhere. Someone is watching a screen, only hearing the sound of gunfire. It looks like a deformed teddy bear saying that things are starting to get interesting. Back to the scene. Ryuki is disappointed by how weak these guys are. Egon explains that they are just playing based on game stats, right? They aren't even trying to dodge anything, and that's why they can't. Against a gun. Besides, he was pinning them in place to keep them there. Writhing in pain, Ryuki approaches with a confident expression, saying that as high-ranking members of the Spear, they probably have some sort of mental defense. Suddenly he feels something and leaps to the side. An attack hits the ground and blows up the whole area. Wow, dude. Not only that, now a rain of attacks is falling on the poor guy. He recognizes it as meteor shower. Definitely the ability of a certain person, and wants to know if it's who he's thinking. Just then a transfer stone falls beside him, and in the blink of an eye, Ryuki disappears. The people in the city are all confused while Cassius wonders if those guys are going to get personally involved elsewhere. Our guy is running while attacks. Keep hitting him in the back, dude. When he looks back, Linfell appeared. What the hell, the guy teleported him. This one is hacking too, eh? And the bastard says that now that no one is watching, things are going to get better. He wasn't going to ignore all the commotion Ryuki has been causing. He already threw a spear at his back and asks if he's ready for the pain he's about to feel. Eigen warns that Ryuki's heart rate is skyrocketing, and our protagonist thinks about how he has imagined this moment thousands of times in his head. He turns to Infel and says all he wants to know is, does he remember who he is? Oh dude, the villain with his Alzheimer's moment. Says he really doesn't remember. He thought that seeing the kid up close would refresh his memory, but nothing. Nothing comes to mind. So now he wants to know why the kid is trying to ruin his life like this. That hits Ryuki like a brick. He can't believe the bastard who ruined his life doesn't even remember anything then. Linfell puts a hand to his face and repeats to himself, Ryuki, and suddenly turns around and says, yes, he really doesn't remember, damn. He really thought he was going to say, I remember, but no, he has no idea, or just asks if Ryuki feels offended by the fact that he doesn't even know who he is. But honestly, he doesn't care, because now that Ryuki has done all this, he's going to have to pay the price at the very least. He hopes not to leave here disappointed. Well man, the fight is really about to start now, and Ryuki tells him not to worry that he didn't intend to hold back. The two are still. It's pure anime style. The beating is about to begin. Linfell charges an attack at the tip from his spear, and our boy already knows what's coming. He moves super fast and dodges. Linfell smiles a bit, impressed that Ryuki managed to escape with that little jump, but our boy shrank back like a turtle. Dude, he doesn't seem very brave. His hands are shaking everywhere. Here comes another attack from Linfell. He manages to block it, but the guy continues with the combo. Man, Ryuki couldn't believe this guy was so strong. And not even parry gave him a solid chance to defend himself. Another hit sends him sliding backward. Linfell says he might have to reevaluate the boy. The entertainment wasn't bad. He's tired of this game that has turned into just a XP farm. Before, everyone played just for fun. He lands more hits and says that Ryuki is also lucky. He's learning from someone with real talent. He does. Spin the spear in his hand, coming down from above, activating the asterisk, meteor strike, asterisk. Man, our boy tries to block, but that stops him. It seems he managed to defend himself, but he felt like his arm was almost breaking. He keeps reactivating. Parry while Linfell keeps the pressure with the spear. But man, speaking of sword mastery, that hit sent him flying. This time it's me saying. He finally created an opening to attack, but the bastard was much faster, and he almost impaled him with a spear in the mouth. Ryuki couldn't believe it. Linfell was hit by the parry and still reacted. Faster than him. Then Linfell says it's interesting that he has parry since that ability shouldn't even exist in the ghost world. So now he's going to turn up the heat and see how long the boy can hold on in the next attack. Ryuki dodges, tilting his head to the side. The problem is that even when he lands a parry, the guy counterattacks faster than he can react. Considering he's already analyzed Linfell quite a bit, he knows part of that is thanks to the weapon he's using. Linfell charges again, saying he's impressed that the boy is still standing. The weapon he has is the *** Starlight Spear ***. Its effect is that the more you attack, the faster it becomes. So eventually, not even parry combined with intuition and would be enough to keep up. Ryuki goes on the offensive, and finally Linfil has to block something. It's his first real opportunity to counterattack, and he does. But judging by the change in his expression, you know it didn't go well. The spear is already embedded in his chest. Linfil says it's a shame. Just 3 more seconds and Ryuki would have set a new record, but apparently it wasn't even worth remembering after all. It was a good fight, but that's all it was. He throws his body to the ground and says, to be honest, it was really disappointing. It was ridiculous that he thought he would win with the skills he had. Besides, he explains that even if Ryuki wanted to die in this place, he couldn't do it. That's because it was a safe zone for Pekka. Although it looked like a village, it was actually an abandoned area. If he wants to blame someone, let it be the developers who left those bugs in the game. I think he explained all that because theoretically, he's only supposed to be able to teleport someone to a city. I don't know the exact rules. What I do know is that the bastard wants to know who's backing the kid, to which Ryuki tells him to ask Cynthia. Suddenly, the bastard's expression changes. He grabs Ryuki by the neck, demanding to know if he knows who she is and where that damn girl is. Ryuki just laughs, saying it seems he got betrayed too. It's true, man, I told you. Cynthia from the guild. H is really there screaming, but our boy's consciousness was already slipping away. Man, he's about to go. He pulls out a flash grenade, and while Linfil talks, it explodes right next to him. Our boy stumbles back, and the guy asks if he really thinks he'll win using toys like those. Then Ryuki tells him, stop asking who's backing me. I don't need help to kill trash like you. The blondie already has veins bulging on his forehead, and Ryuki tells him that yes, he has that little memory problem, but today he'll make sure he doesn't forget. That's because he's going to go in with 50%. Eigen is confused, and Linfil asks if he's lost his mind. Not only do you get beaten up and then suddenly say you're going to use half your power, that makes no sense, Eigen is trying to dissuade him, and our boy just says he's given up useless emotions. I really don't get what this 50% thing is. He's using those CDs. What's happening? Maybe they'll explain it later anyway. In advances completely, focusing on intuition, tries to knee strike, thinks about activating flash step. But he gets kicked straight in the head and ends up slammed against a wall. Man, all that dramatic talk for this. Before you can blink, Linfil has already launched a spear strike that almost pierces his eye. He barely manages to dodge it in time. Linfil says the kid is lucky they're in a sinless zone, or this would have ended quickly. Ryuki, however, barely realizes that his arm won't hold up much longer. Then the blondie says it would be a real shame to fight in the city. It would attract too much attention, and then he'd get scolded by the boss. Tired of all the chatter, Ryuki tells him to shut up, disappears, and suddenly appears behind him. But man, the blondie smiles again without even looking back, throws a punch and cancels our boy's movement, then activates Meteor Shower again on his spear. This time it hits cleanly. Yeah, our boy is getting a beating, honestly. I'm with you, eh? I think it was too soon to face this guy. The guy has only cleared 4 more girls so far. The blondie even mocks him, asking if it's time to up the power of that so-called 50% since they're wrecking him. Our boy tries to get up while the guy keeps attacking him, telling him to try a little harder. It's been too easy. The bastard even strikes the ground with the spear, saying that this revenge story of yours is too weak. He grabs Ryuki by the neck and throws him into the air, saying it's a shame that he wants to keep playing, but now is the time to end this. He launches an attack towards the sky that slices our boy in half, but just before hitting the ground, Ryuki manages to activate Flash and causes a complete explosion. Then Linfil turns to a window that has just appeared in front of him. It's Gabriel, telling him to stop the fight immediately and come back now. But Ryuki gets up again and says, wait, Linfil. Can't believe that the bastard is still standing after taking that hit directly. That's not something anyone can survive, just with willpower. Eigen explains that when he uses 50%, he feels less pain but also slows down his movements. What he doesn't understand is why he would use such a strategy. Is he some kind of masochist who wants to suffer longer? But Ryuki simply responds that he can't give up there, and that he needs to seize this opportunity. While Linfil walks toward him, Ryuki asks if he's afraid of Gabriel. The guy's expression changes, and Ryuki says, looks like I hit a nerve, huh? The mere fact that Gabriel has shown up proves that no one is backing Linfil. At this moment, you can be sure that Gabriel must be furious right now, and in the middle of that conversation, our boy was already pulling out a rusty dagger, and when Linfil is about to say something, he gets stabbed in the neck. The bastard lets out a scream, and Ryuki tells him to calm down. It was just a small cut, nothing serious, but for a guy like him who plays, loaded with objects that reduce any sensation of pain, It definitely must feel different. This is because, well, Ryuki's attacks ignore any object that reduces pain, and the pain hits exactly the same. Linfell curses and insults. But Ryuki simply says, "This is what I wanted. Let's see if you stop making such a fuss. Stop crying and come at me. Here comes the blonde again." But this time it seems Ryuki is able to redirect his spear. Now the guy is confused. It looked like the boy was reading his movements. And the truth is, it's kind of like that. When Ryuki was still an analyst, he reviewed over and over everything Linfell had done. He knows every pattern, every habit, every combat style of the guy. And considering that Linfell probably never experienced this kind of pain, his concentration must be completely ruined, which gives Ryuki an advantage as he dodges. Linfell mutters to himself that he must finish this quickly, charging a combined attack into his spear. Seeing that now it's all or nothing, he activates a skill to increase attack speed, another to boost abilities, one more to double the damage of the next attack, and one last to increase the critical chance. This is a combo he only uses on tower bosses. But now he has no choice. He has to spend it on the guy. Ryuki recognizes it immediately. It's Celestial Meteor Shower. He knows he can use the terrain to escape from this guy. He just has to make sure not to leave the zone. Pekka starts running, but Linfell approaches, saying he's still too slow, until suddenly, bam, a wooden dummy hits Linfell right in the face. Our guy starts creating as much distance as possible, launching a rain of trash objects. He finds in those boxes of low-quality roulette he always opens. The problem is that Linfell goes through it all like it's nothing, and launches another spear attack from behind. The attack cuts through half a mountain, and Linfell growls, saying that this guy is really annoying. Ryuki is on the ground, but managed to dodge the direct hit, and now holding the spear says, "Finally, I have you right where I wanted you." Linfell orders him to get his dirty hands off that weapon, and not to stain it with his rotten blood. But Ryuki starts pulling on the spear, saying he's excited to show him something really fun. Oh man, is this that SSSR he mentioned a while ago, the one he said he was saving for Linfell? Apparently, he tried it earlier with the Wings of Siriele, something that wasn't even a skill or an item. Linfell is confused. He wants to know what the hell is happening to his spear, and man, the spear starts to disintegrate. Ryuki had unlocked the SSR system, and just erased his spear. Yeah, we're crossing over with that Control-C story from the other day. Now it's something completely system level. The spear turns to dust and Linfell stands there not understanding what just happened. Looking at his hand, the guy is on the verge of tears. That was a unique item, and now it's not even in his inventory. This game doesn't even have a destruction mechanic. So how is this possible? He's convinced that this bastard is using some cheap trick. But just then, bang, Ryuki shoots him in the shoulder. Our guy says, "I was aiming for your heart, but you reacted pretty quickly." Linfell is still confused, wants to know where the hell he got a gun, but Ryuki just tells him to stop crying and explains, "The same data that recorded your spear in this world disappeared. There's no way to recover it." That's the power of his SSR delete ability. A system-level ability that even ignores the game's own authority and deletes data from objects within the maze. The only condition to activate it, you have to hold the target object for 5 seconds and it can only be used 4 times a week. Linfell pulls another spear from his inventory, saying he doesn't know what tricks this bastard is using, but he will take him down using any weapon. But at that moment Ryuki is already retreating, provoking. "Come on then, try to catch me, idiot." He charges forward, shouting that he won't let him escape, but then stepping where he shouldn't. Linfell steps on a bomb. Oh man. Our guy is the king of FPS, seriously. As soon as the guy is hit by the bomb, Ryuki keeps shooting more shots to the chest. Then Ryuki says, "You'd better stay really still." Linfell, this whole area is covered in mines. The guy's expression changes once again. This bastard had some item that Linfell had no idea how it was created. And at the next step, click Ryuki, just says it would be stupid to think he hadn't planned this Linfell. He's desperate, but our guy tells him to think very carefully. Any movement now is extremely risky. Moreover, he informs him that this whole trap has been in place since the moment Linfell made his first move. This is because Ryuki already knew all of Linfell's patterns, and I knew that once I started making noise, everything Linfell could do would drag me right to this place, and is being grateful for falling straight into the trap. Linfell is tired of hearing all this and charges at him, but of course, bam, the mine under his foot explodes as the smoke begins to clear. He sees something in the distance, but it's clearly a decoy. He runs towards it, slamming an attack on its head, shouting that he finally won, but he just hadn't noticed what was obvious to everyone. And now Ryuki is standing right beside him, counting from 5 to 1, and at 0, another spear disintegrates. He has a gun pointed directly at the face of the infel, and the guy realizes it seems the kid wasn't lying. Maybe the Starlight Spear really was erased. Ryuki activates ignition and slams the infel against a rock. The guy is on the ground, complaining that sooner or later Ryuki will pay for this, but the moment he tries to log out, the request is cancelled. He wonders why, and bam, sword on his back. Of course it's Igon preventing him from logging out. Ryuki says he's too serious to let him go at a moment like this. He slams Linfel's face into the ground and shouts, "Linfel, Darius, do you remember the guy who used to be an analyst in your guild named Ryuki?" Linfel asks why he should remember something like that. "I'll never remember who you are." Ryuki asks if he really won't remember him, even if it means never being able to play again. He reminds him that each person is only allowed one account in the game, and what if he used his ability and erased that account? Maybe then, "You would never forget my face." Linfel screams at him to take his hands off, but Ryuki starts counting 5, 4, 3, and then we see when Gabriel first asks someone to investigate this, Rio. 701721. Linfel still pretends not to care, scratching his ear and saying he's not interested at all. That person Zero. The guy screams, and so he is simply eliminated now. I don't know if he really disappeared, if he'll ever come back, or what exactly just happened, but Igon praises him, saying he did it. But man, Ryuki and the revenge demon simply says he still hasn't done anything. This was just the beginning. There were still a lot of people who had to pay for what they did, and oh man, behind the rock there's a girl with white hair pulling out a blade. Probably our dear Cynthia. She throws a dagger wrapped in dark energy straight at him. But what is this GigaChad mode activated? He catches it in mid-air. He was about to ask who that person was, when suddenly Igon warns him to be careful. In an instant he finds himself trapped in some kind of strange black cube. It looked like a spatial transfer, but at the same time something was different. Then someone approaches, saying it's been a while, Ryuki. He asks who it is, and the figure introduces themselves as Gaia Zasio. He remembers that was the name of the person in second place. The strange thing is that I had never seen this one before. And man, now that I'm saying it, I'm remembering I spoiled this 26 chapters ago, right? She takes off her cloak, and I hate to say it, but damn, the woman is stunning. Obviously, deep down in our hearts and souls, we will never forgive this woman for betraying our boy. Just then, he remembers that little fake smile, and her standing next to Linfel, totally freaking out, calling out to Cynthia, but she says that was just a disguise. Her real name is Asia. Man, our boy is seriously losing it now, laughing like the Joker. He says he doesn't care what her real name Island. Because of what she did, he was kicked out of the guild and became a nobody. He lost everything he had, and yet she showed up to find him. That means she must want to die. Cynthia, no way. She says she has been looking for him for years. She never imagined he would become a player. Ryuki replies that all this just happened because of the hatred he felt for her, for Linfel, and for the entire Gwynsa guild. So she better get to the point quickly, because if she doesn't, he's about to kill her. Asia says he really has changed in these last 3 years, but he'll get straight to the point. He tells her she should give up her revenge against Linfa. He asks why she says that, and she responds that they will soon start tracking her family in real life, and she should start worrying about her mother. Man, I thought she didn't know, but out of nowhere, she says, "Oops, I forgot. She's already dead. Right? My bad." This woman is asking to be chopped into pieces. Our boy is already grabbing his sword, saying that this damn woman must be wishing to die. He charges in, saying that if that's the case, he'll gladly grant her wish. The sword plunges right into her stomach, but strangely, even then, she simply dodges to the side. Then she starts running toward that dagger, and he's a bit confused. That object seems special, but the moment he reached her, someone cut his hand. Hey, our boy is moving fast. He's already behind her and slits her neck, and he says she's too slow and had no chance at all while she disappears. She says she never realized how deep her hatred had gone. Wait, disappearing, not dying, reconstituting right beside him. She says clearly defeating Linfel was not luck after all. She says she's leaving, and he fires a few shots, but clearly they do nothing. She says she was just curious to see what would happen. She never thought she would actually defeat him, and she warns him that dagger is a true bug. People always call it a bug, but the truth is, it just has a broken system. What she's using is something artificially created. He says he doesn't care, but it seems he understands now. She won't be able to kill her yet. People say destroying the Linza Guild is a job she'll take care of herself. She has no idea what trick he used to beat that guy, but she wants to see what he'll do when he comes back. Ryuki just responds, "I won't stop my revenge, and I don't care about the consequences." She tries to warn him that he'll regret it, but he just says you'll never see that guy again in this game. I deleted his account, and honestly, it was beautiful to see him cry. And I guarantee that when I find him again, the outcome will be the same. Still, I'm curious, Did he really delete that guy's account? Can you really permanently delete someone like that? 4 eliminations per week? That's insane. Outside of the scene, Ryuki notices that damn woman. Buck really managed to block what he could do, and the scariest part was that strange dagger she was using. When she threw it, he should have dodged it instead of catching it, but at that moment, he didn't feel any danger. He's going to need more information and allies to figure out exactly what that thing island. Then he asks Egon if that's ready. Egon says yes, the dates match. They're finally going to meet the person who creates the mods, and it seems like this time it's that creepy little bear, who, by the way, was watching all this mess unfold and was thinking about logging off. But yeah, Ryuki is totally hacking, man. He's watching through a virtual screen and directly tells the teddy bear, "I'm not going to let you log off." The bear apologizes, saying he was just watching the fight out of curiosity. But our guy simply responds, "See you tomorrow at 8 p.m. at Suzuki's shop." Ah, so that was it. He was watching everything through the screen in Igon. Now it all makes sense. The bear agrees. He says he'll see him there but wants to ask about a strange signal drop that happened earlier. Ryuki realizes that even this guy didn't really understand what Cynthia did. Since he doesn't feel like revealing anything, he simply responds, "You're asking too many questions for someone in your position." Next scene, we're already arriving at Suzuki's shop. Our guy walks in complaining, "This is ridiculous. I arrived on time, and the guy doesn't show up." Suzuki asks what he's talking about. He hadn't realized. The mod creator is already here. Ryuki grabs him by the neck, telling him to stop joking, but suddenly someone says, "I'm here." When Ryuki turns his head, the teddy bear comes down the stairs and says he's the one who creates the mods. Man, I thought he'd be bigger, but our guy lifts him with one hand. The poor bear yelps that he's being crushed while Ryuki yells at him to stop talking nonsense. Out of nowhere, Suzuki jumps on the table, and our guy says, "What the hell is happening now?" Then the bear says it's probably easier to show than to explain. At that moment, he was moving his consciousness, the person who is talking to Ryuki. He is the mod creator called 5555, and at the same time the person on the other side of the counter talking to him, it's also him and also Suzuki. It seems the little robot now has Suzuki's voice, right? The author of this story, he really didn't think much about the whole voice change thing to identify characters in the manga. Ryuki doesn't believe it, but Igon confirms it. It really is the same person. It seems to be a consciousness that controls multiple bodies, each with a distinct personality. Then Ryuki realizes that the crazy guy must be using some kind of mod to alter his own personality. The bear puts his hands on his hips and says, "Finally, you figured it out." Then he congratulates him for killing Lin Fel, saying the ending was incredible. Do you want to know how he made the guy disappear? What are the limits of the ability? How many times can he use it? Does it have a cost? How does it work? It seems the voice changed again, so our guy knows it's now 5555, the central personality of the mod creator, not Suzuki's. Ryuki says he won't answer anything until he tells him who he really island. 55 says he'll get to that, but first warns. You have to be careful. Don't let anyone find out you have the lit ability. Ryuki just shrugs and says, too late. Egon had already recorded, edited, and uploaded everything. From now on, this fight with Lin Fel is going to the end. 55 goes crazy. Are you insane? You streamed it all to the guild. He was going to start hunting him down in every corner of the world. Ryuki responds, that's exactly what I want. The bear gives up. He has realized that this guy wants to be hunted, so he asks if Ryuki even knows who is really chasing him. Our guy is a bit confused, but then the bear closes the session and Suzuki stands up, snaps his fingers and says, all right, let's take a look at this first. A holographic aerial view appears, 100 meters around the mall. Behind a wall, we see those gangsters from a while ago. At first, Ryuki is a bit sad that those losers still haven't given up, but the most important detail is the other guys right in front of them. It's the Iron Blood Group, a criminal syndicate that dominates the underworld. Fortunately, they had no connections to Linza. The boss of that group retired after an accident. Rumors say Linza caused that accident. Ryuki understands what Suzuki is implying. Those guys wouldn't have ties to Linza since Linza ruined his people. But now you really want to know? All right, but who are you, Suzuki? The shop owner responds. Very well, since you figured it out, it's time we go to a more appropriate place. Next scene, they're walking through the sewers, and Suzuki says that he and all his clones share the same goal and are looking for allies to help with that. Meanwhile, Igor is doing an analysis and tells our guy that for now, it's not in danger. Then enters a room full of puppets, and Suzuki explains that this is where he keeps his best creations. Our guy approaches one of them, and Igon says it's impressive that a human could create something like this. Ryuki. However, he's not very interested in those bodies and asks if he should call him 5555 Suzuki, or what Suzuki tells him to call him. Suzuki when he's human and 5555 when he's a bear, meaning when he's in hacker mode. God, brother, just give me a real name. Suzuki then says he will explain exactly who he is, and Igon shows some data. The name was unnamed. The age between 20 and 30. And the gender female, okay, you can step out of the shadows. The girl, and the damn girl says that's all that is known about her. Obviously Ryuki is confused since that's practically nothing. He asks if she really doesn't know anything about herself. Could it be that those personality changes affected her head? She replies that, yeah, something like that, and asks if she's ever heard of the accident. 707. It was a plane crash with no survivors, but the truth is there was one person who survived. Burned to the bones, but alive, that person was torn apart in a lab until nothing was left. And then some crazy person put her inside an android body. Damn, guys. The dream of meeting a powerful waifu is over. The girl was alive, and even worse. He asks if she is the only survivor, and she says that in reality there are, or as a result of the experiment, they implanted countless memories. She doesn't know if they are souls, minds, stories, or whatever, but she can control each one artificially. Ryuki already realizes that there's no way to understand this crazy girl, so he just asks what kind of deal she wants. Suddenly, she throws him a notebook saying that she also wants revenge online. Everyone is talking about the beatdown that Linfell took. Along with the guys from his guild, he didn't even look like the same person. The only thing people found strange was that the elimination thing seemed fake, especially because in this game, elimination is not allowed. I mean, it should have been impossible, but then the question is if it was fake because Linfell hasn't shown up to prove it's a lie. Well, there he is. Linfell messed up. Surrounded by bottles and drunk, he throws one against the wall and looks at the system window. It says account verification failed. No data found. The guy laughs, saying, "Don't screw with me. It's impossible that this happened." He was Linfell, the strongest in Linsa. The good thing about our guy not having a waifu mother or anyone is that there's no one to avenge, only remains. To hit him a bit earlier, Linfell was banging the table, calling for his brother and asking for a second chance, but Gabriel says the idiot ignored him. He went to fight alone and even lost his own account. Obviously, now he's screwed. Linfell was getting desperate, saying they caught him off guard. He just needed a new account, and everything would change. From now on, he would do whatever. Gabriel said he just needed someone else's account, or a creation pass. Gabriel, however, it just says that for someone who has played so much, Linfell is incredibly ignorant. It's embarrassing. Sharing the same blood, the rule is simple. One account, one person, period. If he lost it, there's no way to recover it, and now his time is up. Damn it, man. His own brother threw him out. Linfell tells him to stop being ridiculous. That useless loser became a player, so why can't he? He breaks free from the guys and tells them to step aside. He's going to fix this. Yeah, right, you're going to fix it. They already tossed you like trash. The brother says there's a lot of mess to clean up now, so Linfell better not show up around here. Again, the dumb blonde. He can't believe that the guys who were once afraid to look him in the eyes are now treating him like this. So it's true. When someone approaches him from behind and asks if he's Linfell Darius, but the blonde just tells him to get lost. He's not in the mood, and it's better if the bums stay away. Still, the guy hands him a card and says he's there to help him. Apparently, the Infell needs the kind of power they can offer him. He asks if he's interested in hearing the proposal, if I'm not mistaken. That's the same guy from the room with the H and B cards right back with our player. He found out that Linza is holding up the progress of all the other players in the Phantom world. It seems like some sort of deal in between them and the developers, since that way the developers have less work and give them some benefits in return, and it turns out they really are pathetic. No wonder the final product of this game is just a bug-filled disaster. Then Suzuki says this is a secret pact between the Linza Guild and Ration. Soft the developer, but it was ridiculous that they made such a pact just to hold up the development of everyone. Ryuki says he understands, but that the whole game is backed by Yggdrasil, and Ration Soft works for them, so how are they supposed to face a company that practically has all the game development in its hands? Suzuki replies that they need to be eradicated from this world because in the past they used to lead development, but now they're just rotting and holding this place back. Ryuki says that his hatred seems too intense for something so simple. It's then that she mentions the plane accident, the 707 accident, and explains that what exploded that day was an object taken from Yggdrasil. Obviously, he immediately concludes that she must think that Ration the developer was behind that, and she replies that she's sure of it. Ryuki knows that just killing the Linza Guild would already be quite difficult, but taking out Ration would basically mean destroying the Phantom world, so he asks her if that's what she wants. She says they don't need a stupid game like this, even if it supplies half the resources of society. Everything Ratian has been putting out lately is nothing but trash, and due to the lack of progress in the games, resources are slowly running out. Things are stable for now, but in 5 years there's no guarantee they'll stay that way. They can't let a bunch of incompetents monopolize the development of the game, the gods. Ryuki knows that the main goal of this game was to conquer the Demon Tower. The problem is that Linza controls everything here, and he was also planning to take over that place. On the other hand, Suzuki's plan is basically to destroy the entire platform. That's when Igon tells the master that they should do it, because for a game of the gods, this so-called ghost world is nothing but poorly made trash, just a dry and withered branch trying to cling on, and they need to help it cut off Ryuki. Then he says he really liked the story, but apparently forgot the reason he was there. He extends his hand and tells him to hand over the mods. Later climbing the stairs, Egon says that this disguise mod, one of the 13 new ones he received, looks pretty good. Ryuki says it was indeed an interesting trade, but he is still curious to know more about that incident she mentioned. Egon confirms that the incident did occur and that one person survived, but it couldn't be confirmed that it was Suzuki, especially because humans are creatures that should never be trusted. Ryuki agrees, and as he exits, the sewer says they should be near the Pleasure Hotel, which is a safe place to come out, but as soon as he tries to exit the hole, there's that scruffy-looking blonde guy. Ryuki approaches him to see what happened, wondering if the guy was drunk, but that's when he sees there was a digital drug installed on the guy's neck, and that area is known as the Pleasure District, so it makes sense someone would have used something there. Suddenly he hears someone approaching and runs out a guy with a white jacket draped over his shoulders in full one-piece style. Says that apparently this is going to be a real headache. Ego immediately notes that they are wearing the same clothes as the guys who were watching our boy from the window before he entered the store. Then the guy in front with red hair says that bastard makes them run around all the time. He grabs the blonde by the neck and says that the bastard ran up to there after stealing what belongs to them. He slaps him in the face while Ryuki just hides there, watching everything unfold. The redhead tells them to grab the guy and take him away. He lights a cigarette and asks if they lost the target. The guy next to him apologizes but says that they will start tracking again and will find him soon. Apparently they're actually hunting Suzuki. They say that bastard is extremely cautious, but it's all good since the client only asked them to keep an eye on things. For now, they tell the guy to head back to the street. Yushin keeps watch, complaining that monitoring there hasn't helped much. The boss crushes the cigarette and tells him to just do as he's told. That's when Igon comments that this wasn't Suzuki's doing. It seems both are targets now. Our guy just asks to be taken down a path with the least amount of people. A while later, he reaches a door, opens it, and finally, he's alone and can rest after weeks in that damn game world. This was the first time he could really relax. He stretched his arms and smiled, but then a sword flew by, almost hitting him in bed. But he reacted quickly. He had already activated the holy sword and cut off the attacker's arm. But the bastard, even bleeding, jumped out the window. Now Ryuki is losing his mind, turning into a psychopath. He's glad the guy used an Yggdrasil object. He jumps back and tells Egon to show him which way they're going to follow. Thanks to the trail of blood, it's at least easy to follow. Ryuki explains that the guy was using invisibility and an object to hide his presence. Basically, game items turned into real life. Our guy moves on and soon sees the guy turning the corner. When he gets there, the person's back is to him, and he tells him to reveal his identity. Who sent you? Black Snake or Steel Blood? But the guy just raises his sword, fills it with mana, and swings at Ryuki. He manages to dodge it, but the guy's slash was so precise that it left a crack in the ground. That's when our guy says the weapon looks great, but the swordsmanship wasn't that good. The attacker moves, and in a second, Ryuki is already behind him, grabbing his hand and squeezing hard, making him drop the sword. Our guy comments that now he could finally see his face clearly. Then he laughs and says it's amazing. The former ace of the guild is now a murderer. It was really pathetic how Infeldarius had ended up. The guy is desperate, shouting for him to shut up. Now I want to see what evil our guy is going to do. Will he kill him or not? What will he do, kid? Linfel lunges forward to grab the sword, shouting for him to die, but receives a brutal knee to the chin and is thrown to the ground like trash. Once again, our guy goes to pick up the sword, wanting to know where he got that terrifying object from. Straight from Yggdrasil, apparently. He couldn't use his abilities, unless it was in the game's inventory. But still, it was a piece of metal sharp enough to cut. Linfel panics again and runs away once more, terrified. But man, Yuki simply chases him, saying that wasn't the best choice. Linfel is trying to understand how that bastard became so strong, telling himself there must be some kind of solution. The kid can be strong and get famous, but in the end, he's still a nobody. That's when nearby people start to look. They look around and seem to recognize Linfel, asking why there's blood on his hands when they see the sword in his hand. Everyone realizes that it's probably an Yggdrasil object. And then, some voices start to recognize the face of the famous Ryu 7017, knowing he had already defeated that guy in the Phantom World. So why were they fighting here in real life? At that moment, Linfel tells our guy that the biggest crime he committed was that a nobody tried to kill a gold-ranked player like him. That was the worst crime possible, especially now with so many people watching. The testimony of a nobody has no legal value. So what is Ryuki going to do? He simply drops the sword to the ground and tells him to arrest him then. If what he's doing is legitimate, then Linfel should kill him right now. That way, he would be considered innocent. This was his golden opportunity, but of course, that's if he could actually do it. Poor Linfel. He knows the kid is planning something, but the desire to kill that bastard is too strong. Still, he's sure the guy is bluffing. And besides, there are tons of cameras around. He can't go through that kind of humiliation again. But greed speaks louder. This was the perfect opportunity to revive the name of Linfel. He grabs the sword and lunges, but Ryuki dodges, saying it's sad to see how ridiculous Linfel looks with a sword. The fight doesn't even feel tense. Linfel keeps slashing, but Ryuki just laughs, fighting someone who has used a spear all his life. It's just funny. Linfel asks how long he's going to keep dodging, but then he gets an uppercut to the chin. Our guy tells him to stop thinking this is some kind of duel. He's just hitting him because he's trying to flush out that brother of his. Linfel is devastated, humiliated again. He unleashes a flurry of attacks, but Ryuki keeps gaining distance and dodging. Then suddenly, Ryuki trips over some debris, and Linfel sees his chance, jumping with the sword. He says he's going to pay the price for trying to humiliate him, but just when he's about to deliver a massive slash, Ryuki blocks it with a small dagger. Fit Ryuki tells Linfel to be careful. He's not just destroying the city. He's about to kill innocent people. The blonde guy asks what he's talking about, and then it's revealed that a girl was almost hit by his attack. Meanwhile, other citizens are fleeing, screaming that Linfel has gone crazy and is attacking everyone. People are running from him in panic. That's when the fool realizes that Ryuki blocked his line of sight. He didn't even know what he was doing. He turns to shout at the protagonist, but it's already too late. The injured citizens are recording everything, saying they'll make sure the whole world knows, and now what can he do, right? The guy is just standing there, surrounded by cameras, trying to come up with an excuse. But Ryuki says it's going to be hard to explain why he used a sword against innocent people. Linfel turns to attack again, but they were other civilians. It wasn't Ryuki now. He doesn't even know what to say. He tries to explain that it was all that damn nobody's fault, but it's over for him, kid. Ryuki then congratulates him, saying that the useless life he led has finally come to an end, and asks, "Do you remember my name now?" Finally. That bastard seems to remember something that time when he put a hand on the shoulder of Ryuki and told him to stop making that garbage guide. He left with Cynthia in his arms, who ended up betraying him too, right? He was completely ruined. What a fool, yells the name of our protagonist, but the scene cuts to all of this being reported on television. Linfel was arrested, and of course, he had all kinds of excuses, saying it was all a trap by that bastard Ryuki 7 inches Odyssey 7, but the authorities didn't believe him. Watching all this is Gabriel. When the red-haired boy approaches to get something, his expression changes instantly. Linfel says that from now on they will mobilize the entire Linza Guild. They weren't going to overlook any method, even if they had to close the ghost world completely. They were going to find that bastard and solve this once and for all. Honestly, I wish our boy had killed Linfel. But thinking about it, what he did may have been worse than death, because if you kill someone, it's over. They're gone. But now, Linfel is trapped, living this miserable life, just another ruined convict that nobody cares about. Meanwhile, his dumb brother is the one having to give interviews to explain everything. He tries to tell reporters that Linfel had already been expelled when all that happened and that he was no longer a member of the guild. That's why he wants to make it clear. From now on, anything involving Linfel has nothing to do with Linza. But the reporters want to know if it's true that Linfel's account was deleted, and if it was really that Ryuki 7017 who did it. Gabriel simply replies that they are still investigating, but yes, it seems that that guy Ryuki declared war on the guild. And not only that, a power that can delete data from a game is extremely dangerous. That's why he is now considered a risk factor, and they are going to mobilize all guilds and resources to deal with him. He tells the citizens not to worry. Linza will protect the ghost world until the end. Ah, clever little thing. You're trying to paint our boy as the villain now, huh? But online, yes. Everyone is on Ryuki's side, laughing at Linza. They say that bastard is already hiding, and they will never catch him. People even start to wonder what rank the guy has. Some say gold, others say platinum. Meanwhile, that researcher woman Laguna, he's furiously banging on his keyboard. It's been a month since the incident with Linfell, and Ryuki still hasn't uploaded a single humble video. A red-haired girl about 1.3 meters tall and weighing 80% of her weight in thighs asks what Laguna is doing there all alone. It turns out this girl's name is Whiskey, and Laguna wants to know where the leader island. Apparently, she's also from Lanza. And she says that Gabriel went to meet that pig. Laguna comments that they seem to be working hard, and she claims they are. Everything in this game is a complete mess because of that damn Ryuki or whatever his name island. Can't understand why they just won't accept that Linfell lost, maybe because the guy has a bug that nobody knows how to counter, but Laguna stands up and says he doesn't understand. What Ryuki is doing goes against common sense. Bizk then asks, and where's that guy who challenges common sense? It seems like everyone is trying to hunt him down, and no one can find him. Laguna is about to respond, that's exactly what he wants to know, but bam, something appears behind her. A new video has just been uploaded. Meanwhile, at the Ratian Company Operations Center, someone asks if they still haven't found that damn Ryuki. Gabriel apologizes to the fat guy, who says apologies are useless. He already said just kill the kid in real life if they can't find him in the game. After all, he's just a nobody using hacks. How hard can it be? Man, I think they went overboard with this guy's design. His head takes up about 1% of his body. This guy is Duke Severo, CEO and developer of Ratian, and a platinum-ranked player. He asks if it's true that resource gathering in their main game, the Ghost World, is decreasing. It seems the Linza Guild is becoming a bigger disappointment every day. Gabriel is there apologizing, thinking to himself that he's fed up with dealing with this outdated garbage. However, the fat guy says it's fine. That thing was just a relic that would soon become obsolete anyway. The only problem is it would be inconvenient if the game collapsed right now. It had to stay active until his masterpiece was finished. Then he says he's going to show them a game that will remodel the entire industry. At that moment, a video window appears in front of him, and for everyone in the city, I saw they have the notifications for Ryuki's channel turned on. He just uploaded something and they appear. You could also follow the example of those honest citizens, right? Turn on the notifications here on my channel too. Our guy raises his hands and welcomes everyone, introducing himself once again. He stands in a Minecraft-like world saying they're calling him an enemy of society, but for him, those who truly deserve that title are Linza and Ratian, but take your time because he's going to destroy the Ghost World very soon. That's what he really wanted. To show today was what comes next. A game called Tomb Builder that used to be a hit, but then it was abandoned. Normally games like that don't just get abandoned, they get destroyed. So the question is, why do games like that get destroyed? He explains that there are games focused on gathering resources and others focused on fun. This little cubic world like Minecraft is supposed to be fun in theory, while the Ghost World is completely focused on farming and grinding because that's where the fun was supposed to come from. Obviously with games like the Ghost World, once the resources run out, the game shuts down because that was the only reason for its existence. This Minecraft clone, however, was destroyed for a different reason. Just then a giant heart appears above and says that is the god of cubes, and the divine entity that basically keeps this world running but also turns it into trash. Then he pulls out his sword and says he's going to show them how to destroy each world. You see, she's confused, wondering how he's doing something like that. Both she and Laguna think the same, or how the hell is he using a weapon from the Ghost World in a completely different game? The god of cubes starts attacking, throws the first blow while Ryuki explains the real reason this game failed is that damn god kept destroying everyone's builds. It was supposed to be a fun game, but no one was having fun, because the difficulty was absurd thanks to that book. He jumps from cube to cube, gets closer, and asks what happens when they destroy what holds the world together. He stabs the sword, the cube twists, and he puts his hand on it, explaining that when a severe and irreparable failure occurs in the system, the game should collapse. Then he activates the SSR system and uses delete. The cube begins to disintegrate and explodes into the sky. Suddenly, everything around him starts to become a pixelated chaos. And he says now that no one is managing it, this place is going to fall apart. Avis asks if he's really destroying the maze itself, and Laguna realizes he just used the same ability that destroyed the Hell Spear. Our guy opens his arms and says, as you can see, if you destroy what holds a game together, it disappears, and you'll soon see the same thing will happen to it. In the Ghost World, Gabriel had said during an interview that without the Ghost World, the real world would collapse. But the only thing that will collapse is Hatina's greed and the guild's laziness. Linza and Ryuk guarantee it. They are next, man. Everything is messed up. just to announce he's planning to end the game. In the next scene, we see a group entering a dungeon in the ghost world. Apparently, there are wanted posters for our boy Fi right in front of the dungeons. There are always some guys posted up holding their wanted signs, checking who they're going to let through. The players are starting to get mad at Ryuki for making everyone go through this mess, just like with the guild. Linza for making them go through this mess too, man. The guy orders everyone to take off their gear and leave all their items on the ground, so they can inspect them. That's when the guy in the helmet starts pulling out a gun. And you know who it is, Fi. Immediately, everyone goes on high alert. Only one person had that weapon, and our boy appears, saying it must be tough for them to spend all day chasing him, so he prepares to attack, saying it's time to try out some new skills, just a little warm-up before entering the dungeon. One of the skills he got is called SR Sword Draw, which basically lets him draw his sword super fast, delivering a slash with a higher chance of critical hit. Then he switches to another sword, a blue one, and takes out the other guy. That was the Soul Reaper sword that always hits. A critical hit against spirit-type enemies. A guy with an axe comes from behind, shouting that he's an arrogant bastard, just to receive a direct punch to the face. Dude, the guy literally turned into a puddle of blood. With just one punch, our boy says this is too easy. What have they been doing all month? That scene was actually a month in the future, and now we jump to a month in the past, right after he made his big announcement. He decided to return to the Labyrinth and look for other games, since for now he would be tirelessly grinding in the ghost world. So he enters one called Celestial Blade Online, a martial arts game, but it was too easy to beat everything there, and he still wanted more power. He needed enough power to face Ratani, alone, and not die. He died once against the boss, then again, and one more time. The old man in the game shouts that it's ridiculous. Even after taking so much punishment, he still believes he has a chance. Because he's so persistent, the boss says he'll show him the peak he has reached. This was the Sword Demon, the final boss of that game. Ryuki slams the ground in frustration, shouting that even though this guy is the final boss, he's way too bugged, and he's incredibly difficult. The problem was that it was an abandoned game, so there were no real strategies, and no one had even tried to fix it by going back to their usual habits. Igon tells him to try his luck at the roulette. Maybe he'll get a legendary skill that solves everything. Ryuki pushes the robot, saying he already told him those points are for improving skills, but then something seems to click. We return to the boss, who asks why he simply doesn't give up. He should already realize how foolish it is to keep trying the same thing, without changing strategies. But Ryuki calmly walks through the door, saying he's heard that phrase so many times he knows it by heart. No more chatter, the old man should come at him already. The Sword Demon calls him a piece of insolent trash and lunges at him, saying no one insults him and lives to tell the tale. He unleashes some purple slashes, and Ryuki starts dodging. Once again, he's facing a completely unbalanced combo. Then the boss appears behind him and says Ryuki talks a lot for someone with no chance. Ryuki manages to block the attack, and the boss even congratulates him for at least surviving. But at that moment, Ryuki had left a grenade right behind the guy. It seems he came out unscathed. But as he followed Ryuki, the guy starts throwing a bunch of grenades. The Sword Demon keeps chasing him, shouting that someone sick like him won't win with such a dumb strategy. One of the things he slashes turns out to be a gas grenade. Ryuki puts on a mask instantly, but it wasn't gas, it was a stink bomb, and the boss has to cover his nose. Our boy also puts on earplugs and anti-glare glasses while throwing blinding and sonic grenades like crazy. Everything explodes, and at that moment, the boss couldn't smell, couldn't see, couldn't hear. It's then that a bullet hits him right in the forehead. The boss falls to the ground. Even Igon says that was the dirtiest strategy he's seen a human use in a game. Our boy just replies, I used human technology grenades, scythe bombs, and weapons. There was no way a martial arts boss would know how to deal with all that. Just like the Black Knight, this guy was a bug, which is why Ryuki earned 15,000 points. Back in the present, he's still impressed. That Kai sword thing is incredibly powerful. The skill itself is quite simple. It increases physical strength, but since it came from a glitched boss, it clearly isn't simple at all. He bids farewell to the crowd, telling them to send his regards to Gabriel. The boss of this dungeon was known as Leah Ganon, and it seemed his specialty was being able to use the aura as if it were part of his own body. What the hell was I thinking? Next scene, the boss is groaning in agony. Our boy had summoned this pair of adder. What the hell was I thinking? Next scene, the boss is groaning in agony. Our guy had summoned this Ramut in his child form, a shadow creature, basically a pet that could absorb the shadows of other creatures. So yeah, as the boss focused on the aura, He was absorbed, or maybe he wasn't the boss. Maybe he was just the first creature in the dungeon. Either I'm going crazy, or that was it. And he's already coming out of the dungeon. And of course, as soon as he steps outside, everyone is waiting for him. Our guy says he thought Gabriel had retired. Apparently, the legend Gabriel Darius was planning a comeback. He comments that they figured people would be waiting, but it seemed like half the server was there. Our guy asks if Linza has nothing better to do than show up with so many people, but suddenly Gabriel pulls out a book and says that actually he's there to make him an offer. Our guy says it's ridiculous to talk about offers when you show up with a mob like that. It's clearly a threat, but then Gabriel offers him a chance to return to the guild, Lance. He would no longer be seen as a nobody and would even receive the gold rank, something almost impossible to achieve. Besides that, he would be named heir to the position of guildmaster. The guy really offered him everything. Our guy responds that apparently they're trying every trick possible to keep him trapped by offering him exactly what he wants to destroy. To prevent him from destroying it right away, he shoots back and says, "My answer is go to hell." But in a second, Gabriel is already behind him saying he understands. He attacks and Ryuki blocks it. Gabriel says he was going to celebrate, but it seems Ryuki doesn't want to accept such a great offer. So to celebrate that decision, he's going to share something about the General Saint Hospital, the place where Ryuki's mother died. Oh, her death wasn't from natural causes. Ryuki pushes him away and says he's not going to fall for something so stupid. Gabriel responds that Ryuki can check it himself if he wants, but that his purpose here is already fulfilled. In fact, he's more interested in the skills and items that shouldn't even exist in this game. Then he says goodbye and tells Ryuki he'll be waiting for him at the top of the tower. The bastard starts flying away, saying that of course, Ryuki will first have to deal with all the other players. Man, he's really flying away and there's a crowd outside. It looks like a damn football stadium. Gabriel announces that whoever kills Ryuki will receive the same offer he just rejected. Obviously, the crowd gets excited. Gabriel knows the kid is extraordinary. But there's no way a single person can defeat 1,000. But before he can finish that thought, bodies are already flying in front of him. He looks back and a laser is coming straight at him from Ryuki, who tells him to stay right there. Brother, his sword keeps growing. Now it's a damn cannon. The poor guys who got hit are in shock, knowing it can't be possible that hundreds died in the first attack. The blonde girl insists they still have enough numbers to take him down. Another barrage of arrows and spells is launched at our guy. But from the expression on his face, you already know nothing is going to happen. The explosion hits, and in the smoke, that's where he should be. But he's no longer there. The players are confused. It seems he used a return stone, but those things take 10 seconds to activate. Gabriel lands back on the ground, confused that Ryuki still had another trick up his sleeve. It was fine for him to escape this time, but next time something like that won't happen again. Our boy reappears in another part of the forest. He had used a teleportation skill. He had 5 points saved and the cooldown time was an hour. Man, our boy opens the skill list and things are getting huge. The latest additions were enchantment level 1, an SSR limit exceeded, but he's annoyed. He says that's very little this last month. He had been working non-stop, saved 1,000 tickets, and that's all he got Igon. He says he should at least be happy he got something, but now he's curious what the next step is. Ryuki says, obviously, it's time to start the core of the game. The Tower Man. I love tower games. Who doesn't? Right, leveling up floors, awesome. But before he can go to the tower, our boy has to clear multiple dungeons. And he's breaking records in each one. People are getting nervous, asking what the hell he's doing. Linza, because they're losing everything to this guy. Some comment that as always, he's probably abusing some weird bug. It's then that a red-haired guy yells that Ryuki was seen in a nearby dungeon, but the crowd isn't very eager to chase him. They say he was seen in another dungeon just before that. By the time they get there, he'll already be done, and on to the next one. The NPC behind the bar asks if the guy isn't going to hunt him down. The armored guy thinks it's strange because an NPC is interested in that kind of information. The bartender replies that it's just interesting to see a guy being hunted by dozens of guilds while he takes out all the other players. The blue-haired guy asks if the old man is really okay with all that, after all the guy is trying to destroy the very game everyone lives in. It's then that the bartender reveals he comes from another world called Pong. Apparently it's one of the oldest games in Yggdrasil, so this guy has been around for a long time. The old man explains that he has gone back and forth through countless games, and in the end they have no choice but to accept that some games will disappear just when someone is about to ask more. Someone outside calls. To all citizens born in that world, a guy in red armor yells that this is the reality they live in. They were born in this place, and here they will die. That's why they need to unite and take down the invaders and reclaim their land. They call themselves the Bloody Guild, and tomorrow they will invade the dungeons and prove they no longer need players. Brother, is this an NPC guild? This daughter is going wild, son, back at the bar. The old man thinks to himself that these kids really don't understand how games work. He says he's about to close the shop, so the guy in armor should leave too. Wait a moment, plot twist, that guy was Ryuki in disguise the whole time. And the little bear reveals to our boy that this group of NPCs is being led by someone named Kugan. Apparently they have already challenged countless dungeons over and over again, but this time they say they are going to conquer. Now I'm confused. Do they want to conquer any dungeon or the tower itself? Egon intervenes, saying that since they are NPCs, this is basically suicide. Because they can't respawn when they die, our boy asks if it's really possible that they found a way to conquer that place, and Gon replies that yes, it could be possible. Especially since HS seems to be in contact with their guild. Our boy remembers the only woman in this whole world you know who I was. If she has contacted those guys, it's probably another glitched mess right away. He starts to disguise himself again, saying he has a bad feeling about this and is going to follow them. The scene changes to the Predator's nest. The whole group is advancing while our boy stays behind, wondering why so many people are going with them. Egon explains that the limit of 4 players per dungeon only applies to player Phi. For the residents of this world, they can bring as many as they want, since for them, it's literally just a cave. But Ryuki thinks that doesn't make sense. These guys were much weaker than even the weakest players. So how were they supposed to fight then, when a red scorpion lunges to attack and the Phi Knights, instead of defending, all dodge? Kugan, organizing the formation, orders the front line to fall back and let the second row in. Now these Phi, these are real players, dude. These guys were risking their lives. This is what you call a hardcore dungeon. Ryuki is impressed for a bunch of NPCs. They were really well organized and moved with coordination. Too bad they probably wouldn't do any real damage, but that's when he notices something strange. The tip of the spear of one of the guys looks glitched. All the attacks were piercing way too easily. Egon points out, quickly, that it's the same pattern as HS's dagger. If they could capture one, maybe they could analyze the structure. Seeing the chaos this has turned into, Ryuki starts to think that dealing with NPCs could be even harder than with Linza. The worst part is that even though the NPCs are using overpowered weapons, Phi, a hit to the chest, still creates a crater, and the guy is obviously... Phi is in critical condition, he's going to die. Ryuki asks what really happens to NPC data when they die. Egon explains that they basically rebirth in a different form, a kind of reincarnation, but they rarely retain memories of their past life. So yeah, some NPCs end up being mute. It seems like all of this is a simulation. Wait, what if we're also in a simulation? Hey dude. Then Kugan pulls out a dark-looking potion and tells them to give it to the injured one. As soon as he touches the NPC's mouth, it's like a level Ryu healing the guy is fully restored instantly. Our boy is just standing there watching how these bastards keep pulling out more suspicious items than the last one. Now he starts to feel a strange unease along with a dark aura, maybe thanks to his enhanced intuition. Everyone is celebrating, saying that that person spoke nothing but the truth with those spears and potions. They would survive and complete the mission. But then a bald guy with a spear asks why that player gave them all those things. Kugan responds that not all players are enemies. Still, the true intention behind all this is clearly to use the residents as pawns. But of course, they're not going to just sit there being used once this ends. They plan to flip the game and take control. Time passes, and Kugan announces that they have finally arrived at the final boss of the dungeon, Fui, the post-McDonald's version from Peru. Without hesitation, they charge in with their spears, but the monster fades into the ground while our boy stays back. Analyzing the fight and studying patterns, everyone is tense, wondering where the boss will appear next. Then Kugan pulls out a battle banner. He plants it in the ground and activates a radar. Damn, he really revealed the location below. This guy is legit. The creature realizes it has been detected and explodes. Instantly from the ground, Ryuki says that this detection thing is basically cheating. Egon responds, "You're the last person on Earth who can talk about cheating." The boss strikes the ground, sending huge rocks flying. If it hits you in the chest, you're dead. But Kugan sneaks up from behind and pierces it like butter. With his spear, shouting that victory was finally within reach, the Predator dungeon was cleared. Standing over the monster's corpse, Kugan celebrates, shouting that they did it. Suddenly, someone starts to applaud, saying they are deeply moved. When Kugan looks to the side, he recognizes the man with the hat. It's John Dog, who says he can't believe they actually did it. But this guy wasn't supposed to be there. Kugan asks what he wants. John Doe apologizes, saying that's no way to treat a friend, but immediately Phi, the NPCs, raise their spears, saying they're sure he plans to use them for something. John Doe calmly responds that he heard Coogan say he would clean up the mess no matter what, so it doesn't make sense to complain now. The NPCs could proudly say they fought, but they wouldn't be the heroes of this place. Coogan says he doesn't know what John Doe wants, but that feudal Lord Dan was just getting started. What the hell is feudal Lord Dan? No idea. John Doe simply waves his hand down, saying, they took the potion. Suddenly, all the NPCs collapse, surrounded by a glitching aura. And this little weekly villain says that the potion doesn't restore people to their original state. In fact, it creates buggy code in the damaged areas, allowing the person to survive a little longer. But the damage keeps accumulating. The goal of HS from the beginning was to see what would happen when the error reached its peak. And obviously, a sealed room with 50 people was the perfect testing ground. Poor Coogan thought he was dominating. Now he's bleeding from the eyes, wondering what that bastard thinks they are. John simply says they're NPCs with a slightly better AI. Coogan collapses, yelling for him to go to hell, saying that players really are all bastards. From above, Ryuki watches the guy being dragged. John Doe checks the bodies, saying things like number 32 and failure Carantuno. Failure. 21. No total failure checks each and every one, and all the bodies were a failure until something catches his attention. Coogan's body is being covered by a black aura, and John gets excited finally. At least one was a success. Man. The guy starts to rise, dripping black sludge completely darkened. Murmuring something about awakening, the resident suddenly a cocoon surrounds him and turns into a bucket of black ink while John Doe celebrates, hoping that this first success doesn't collapse. Bam Ryuki appears behind him, knife to his throat as John starts to turn. Our guy just says, don't turn your head. You'd better start talking. What is HS really plotting? Blood starts to drip, but John Doe calmly says he has no reason to reveal it. Next panel. He's already spilling everything. It seems he wasn't that hard to convince. Explains that it all started with an investigation about Yggdrasil's interference signals and that it's almost complete, or all they need now is the final proof. Cut to another scene. 3 gentlemen looking at a boy asking if the NPC has buggy speech. But the boy responds, I'm not an NPC one day. I'll be like the players freely walking the world fighting monsters. Leveling up, the white-haired boy says he can see the kid is serious. So why not make it a bet back to the present? John Doe tries to attack Ryuki from behind, calling him an idiot for letting his guard down. It seems he already figured out who our guy really is, but what he didn't expect was level 2 instinct, bro. Ryuki pulls out a flashbang grenade and throws it in his face. I told you this bastard is the king of FPS if Yggdrasil launches Counter-Strike 3. He is ready. John Doe is staggering, confused about where the hell that flashbang came from. But now they're cutting him in the neck, and Ryuki demands again, what was that black thing that devoured the younger one? John Doe, instead of answering, asks, why are you so angry? Are you emotionally attached to those NPCs or what? Man in that panel with his invisible foot. The idea was probably to show a high-speed move. But it seems the artist got confused with the effect this time. But well, there's the result. Slam the poor guy face first into the ground. As always, the guy tries to log out, but it doesn't work. Meanwhile, Coogan's body is completely black, surrounded by red cubes with glitches. Ryuki says he wants to see the guy keep acting tough after getting hacked. He better start digging soon or he's going to disappear. Someone tries to stab him from behind, but Ryuki just shoots. A bullet saying this is pathetic. Even Ryuki is impressed with how level 2 perception lets him feel danger before it happens. But suddenly, John Doe seems surprised and tells Ryuki to look behind him. Coogan approaches from behind, extends his hand, and unleashes a burst of dark energy, forcing Ryuki to back off. Wondering how this bastard is still alive, the attacks are hitting John Doe's arm and the guy is literally disintegrating, turning into goo and pixels, just a touch, and it was corrupting his whole arm. John starts to log out, saying he's screwed because of that damn glitch, but he will make sure Ryuki pays for all of this. Igon explains that he didn't actually log out. He used some kind of dungeon escape function, the same one that let him appear there in the first place. Before Ryuki can say anything, Coogan hits him with another attack. But man, Ryuki resolves it quickly with a clean shot. Right to the forehead. It doesn't seem like the boss lasted long. Ryuki finds it interesting that Coogan is still alive even with a hole in his head. Despite his human appearance, he was just a set of buggy code. It seems Coogan is having memories of when he held a wooden sword, and someone yelled at him for being too slow. It was that night from yesterday saying if the kid could land just one hit, he would take him on an adventure. Then, his mother appeared, saying she had been looking for him all morning, telling him to go chop wood. But he replied that he didn't want to do boring stuff like that anymore. People outside were waiting for him. Then, man, he slits the guy's throat. His body falls like trash and the guy crouches down saying, finally I hit one. That NPC? had been holding the item for the next dungeon. Kugan, horrified, asks why he did that to his mother, but the guy just seems confused. He thought the kid was gone, explaining that they were just in the village, waiting for the NPC carrying the crystal to show up. Kugan desperately still doesn't understand why he had to die back in the dungeon. Ryuki has secured the black spear and the antidote, everything needed for the analysis, looking at Kugan's decomposing body. He asks if he has any last words, saying he'll hear his wish before dying. Kugan says he will never forgive the players, and at that moment he curses them all. His body starts to explode, releasing dark energy all over the cave. Ryuki fires again, but this time the whole place truly explodes. When the dust settles, there's nothing left of the guy, and Ryuki reflects, maybe they were similar. Maybe if he were still alive, they could have gotten along. He just hopes that in the next life, the guy is born in a better game or a better maze sometime later. He asks 55 how the data analysis he sent is going. 55 replies that it's interesting data and that he will investigate this John Doe Ryuki. He says that finally, the part that takes the most time has arrived. It's time to like this video to help our deck. To keep bringing these amazing stories to you all. I'm finally back, guys. I managed to fix the computer problem and I'll be back with weekly videos for you. So until next time, take care, guys.